Chapter 30, 320. The Ghost God Seal was a peak general class technique, and with the addition of his Shadow Rabbit form, it would be a piece of cake for him to kill 2 6th Division Life Seizers. In his Shadow Rabbit form, Ling Xiao could unleash the power of a 5th Division Life Sizer. Combined with a peak general class technique, it was only natural that he would be able to crush 6th Division Life Seizers. The ghost god brimming with the aura of death shot toward the Fire Serpent Brothers, its black aura filling the air. In the blink of an eye, the 2 men were surrounded. What? The Fire Serpent Brothers had never imagined that Ling Xiao would actually attack them. Even more shocking was the fact that Ling Xiao's attack was so terrifying. Originally, they had thought that they could unleash the power of a 7th Division Life Sizer. Although they had told themselves not to underestimate their opponent, they still couldn't help but look down on him. However, Ling Xiao's attack was swift and vicious. They didn't even have a chance to draw their swords. Boom! A terrifying boom rang out. The black ghost god pierced through the Fire Serpent Brothers. In the blink of an eye, the black aura of death was like the most terrifying acid in the world, completely corroding the Fire Serpent Brothers' bodies. Chunks of rotten flesh fell to the ground, transforming into pus. The stench filled the air. Clang! The 2 swords fell to the ground. Without even thinking about it, Ling Xiao put them into his ring of holding. As for the Fire Serpent Brothers, they were long dead. Even their souls had ascended to heaven. This was the primeval god, Necropolis. Even in the Western domain, there was no place like this. If you wanted to rob someone, you would be killed. That was a matter of course. Seeing Ling Xiao kill the Fire Serpent Brothers so easily caused Lightning Old Wolf's eyelids to twitch. The others were equally shocked. The Fire Serpent Brothers weren't weak at all, and yet Ling Xiao had killed them so easily. Just how strong was Ling Xiao? Lightning Old Wolf was starting to feel a bit confused. He had assumed that even if the Fire Serpent Brothers weren't a match for Ling Xiao, they would at least be able to help him test out Ling Xiao's strength. That way, he would have a good idea of what to do. But now, it was as if nothing had been found. Those 2 pieces of trash had died so easily. How useless! Lei Old Wolf was still hesitating about what to do next when a warrior beside him suddenly spoke. Kid, you can take the things in Brother Hua Shi's storage ring, but you have to give those 2 swords to our boss. Oh, why? Ling Xiao smiled and said, We've already agreed before. What I get is mine. You have no right to take it. Why are you suddenly changing your mind? Humph. That profound fire sword's original name was Fire Supreme Sword. The original name of the snake poison sword was Supreme Snake Sword. It was something from the Western regions, Tomb of the 9 Supremes. It was a waste for the Fire Serpent Brothers to obtain it. You're a 4th Division Life Sizer, so it would be a huge waste for you to get something like this. It just so happens that there are quite a few of us who use swords. If you hand over those 2 swords, we can give you some protection. That person coldly snorted. Seeing this person speak, Old Wolf did not stop him. This was the 2nd time he had allowed his subordinate to ask Ling Xiao for something. Last time, his subordinate had been killed by Ling Xiao. What would happen this time? This subordinate of his was a 6th tier Qi condensation realm martial artist. He should not die so easily. Lei Old Wolf, what do you think? Ling Xiao looked at Lei Old Wolf and asked coldly, The Fire Supreme Sword and the Snake Supreme Sword are not something you can have. Give them to me, and I can compensate you with some spirit stones. Lei Old Wolf thought for a while and finally decided to shed all pretense of cordiality, because he realized that if this continued, he would only become more and more depressed. No matter how strong Ling Xiao was, he had more than 20 people under him. He did not believe that he could not kill this kid. Did you hear that? Hand over the Fire Supreme Sword and the Snake Supreme Sword, and we can spare your life. Lei Old Wolf's trusted subordinates also shouted at Ling Xiao. Fan Tuan looked at this scene and frowned, but did not say anything. He believed that Ling Xiao would make the best decision. "Kiki, are you all idiots?" Ling Xiao sneered. "You bunch of good-for-nothings, other than Lei Old Wolf, who is a bit of a threat to me. The rest of you are completely useless. How dare you be so presumptuous in front of me? I'm not qualified. Who is qualified to come over? Let me see. Kid, it seems like you really want to do things the hard way today. You are strong, but there are so many of us. Do you think you have a chance of winning?" Lei Old Wolf sneered. Since they had already shed all pretense of cordiality, he could not be bothered to pretend any more. "Boss Lei is right. You're just a little kid who hasn't even grown out his hair. How dare you snatch things from us? That's right. Hand over the treasured swords, and you can still live. Otherwise, only death awaits you." Everyone chimed in. Obviously, they did not take Ling Xiao seriously. Sometimes the advantage in numbers would really make martial artists forget themselves. "Although it will take some effort to kill you, it's not impossible," Ling Xiao said indifferently. "I think you're really tired of living, kid." Initially, Lei Laolang was indeed a little fearful of Ling Xiao, but that was all. After all, he was a 7th-level life-sizer, and among his subordinates, there were 26th-level life-seizers. Ling Xiao actually said that he had a chance of winning? Was there something wrong with his brain? Or did he not know his name after surviving the Imperial Prince's attack? Actually, it would be difficult for Ling Xiao to kill these people. However, he was in a hurry to raise his cultivation base. With so many people ganging up on him, it was a huge crisis. This way, the energy in his cultivation sea would definitely skyrocket. In that case, it would not be impossible for him to reach the 5th level of life seizing. Moreover, every 10% increase in his cultivation sea's energy would double his battle prowess. First, he would use his speed to avoid a direct confrontation with Lei Old Wolf, and then find the weaker ones to attack. Finally, he would have a showdown with Lei Old Wolf. This was his plan. Although the plan was a little dangerous, it still had a high chance of success. Moreover, the path of martial arts did not require stability. If you did, you would never be able to catch up to those geniuses of the same generation who had large amounts of cultivation resources. Cut the crap. You want my treasured sword? No way. If you want to fight, I'll accompany you to the end. Ling Xiao looked at Lei Old Wolf and said, "All right, since you're courting death, don't blame us for being ruthless. Brothers, get your weapons and kill that kid." Lei Old Wolf was still quite cautious. He ordered his subordinates to attack, but he was not in a hurry. He probably wanted to see if Ling Xiao had an opening before attacking. "Old brother Fan, just stand by and help me. Take care of as many as you can. If you can't, just protect your own life." With that, Ling Xiao suddenly transformed into the purple, lightning bull beast soul. Then he used quaking mountains and quaking earth. Chapter 30, 321. The ground shook, and Lei Laolang and his subordinates all entered a dizzy state, even though it was only for a moment. However, what Ling Xiao wanted was this moment of opportunity. Then he released the 9-snake General Beast Soul that he had just promoted. 9-snake poison region. Dead Nation black poison. A large area of black poison smoke surrounded Lei Laolang and his subordinates. Those martial artists with weaker defensive power were instantly swallowed up by the terrifying black poison and turned into black pus. Those with stronger defenses also released a large amount of true essence to suppress the Death Kingdom black poison in fear. As a result, no one could unleash their full strength. It's not over yet, grandsons. Bloodthirsty rat plague. After the Dead Nation black poison, it was the bloodthirsty rat plague that tortured Lei Laolang and his subordinates to death. In the blink of an eye, 15 of the 20 people had died, leaving only 5 people who were relatively stronger. Fan Tuan, who was at the side, had no chance to intervene at all. Ling Xiao was too strong. He was dumbfounded by what he saw. This scene was simply like a dream. Lei Laolang was still slightly stronger. At this moment, he had already closed in on Ling Xiao. The broadsword in his hand slashed towards Ling Xiao's neck. Ling Xiao couldn't help but show some admiration. Under the weakening of his dead nation black poison and bloodthirsty rat plague, Lei Laolang's strength actually didn't weaken much. It seemed that Lei Laolang had probably encountered a similar situation before. Only by surviving in such a terrifying environment could he have such a strong resistance. Clang! Ling Xiao waved the Fire Supreme sword that he had just obtained to block Lei Laolang's broadsword. A raging fire bloomed from the sword. It forced Lei Laolang to retreat again. "Save me!" Suddenly, there was a horrified cry for help from afar. This voice attracted both sides of the battle, causing the battle to stop instantly. Everyone looked into the distance. The sky and the earth were all covered in white. "Oh no, it's the extreme cold blizzard. Run!" When Lei Laolang saw that, he didn't even have the thought of avenging his subordinates. He turned and fled in the opposite direction of the extreme cold blizzard. The rest of the group followed suit. Fan Tuan anxiously shouted at Ling Xiao, "Brother, let's run. If we run into that extreme cold blizzard, even if we don't die, we'll lose a layer of skin. It's one of the most terrifying natural disasters in the ancient divine tomb, and it's also one of the dangers that warriors don't want to encounter the most. You go first." Ling Xiao looked at the blizzard and transformed into his ice blast dragon beast soul. He had a feeling that the extreme cold blizzard was not an inanimate object, but something that was alive. They were like elemental creatures. That thing had indeed given him a huge amount of pressure. He even saw those fleeing cultivators being swept up by the terrifying snowstorm, then frozen into ice cubes in the air and finally torn apart. After all, the strongest of the group was in the 7th division of life seizing. No wonder even Old Wolf, Lei, fled in fear. "Since I have life rewind, I'll go all out." Ling Xiao thirsted for advancement, thirsted for strength. Lei Old Wolf's subordinates were too useless. They didn't give him any pressure at all. However, this extreme cold blizzard made him feel the threat of death. "Don't be stupid, brother," Fan Tuan said. "That's an extreme cold blizzard. It's different from ordinary blizzards. It's so terrifyingly cold that it can freeze an 8th division life-sizer into ice cubes in an instant. Then you can rip them to shreds." Seeing that Ling Xiao wasn't leaving, Fan Tuan grew anxious. Ling Xiao looked at him for a moment, then walked over and suddenly struck out with his palm. "Once you get out of here, stay away from Lei Old Wolf and the others. If you survive, I'll definitely help you kill them. Until we meet again." Ling Xiao's control over the strength of this palm strike was simply perfect. Fan Tuan felt himself being shoved backward, unable to stop, but at the same time he wasn't injured. He quickly moved away from the extreme cold blizzard, only to see Ling Xiao being swallowed up by it. I finally made it out. By now, the extreme cold blizzard was gone. Lei Old Wolf had personally seen Ling Xiao being sucked into the blizzard and then frozen into ice cubes. As for whether or not he was dead, although he didn't see it with his own eyes, how could he still be alive? After all, that was a terrifying disaster that not even 8th Division life seizers could survive. "Boss, should we go find those 2 treasured swords? They're high-quality, Emperor-class, treasured swords. They shouldn't have been destroyed by the extreme, cold blizzard." There were 4 other people who had escaped with Lei Old Wolf. Although Ling Xiao's kingdom of death, black poison, and bloodthirsty plague had tormented them, they hadn't died. Of course, that kid deserved to die, but we have to get those 2 treasured swords. Otherwise, all those brothers he killed would have died for nothing. Lei Old Wolf nodded, then began to walk in the direction where the blizzard had disappeared. That was where Ling Xiao had been sucked into the blizzard. Just as they were about to reach it, they saw another figure approaching, calling out, "Brother Ling!" "Boss, it's that bastard Fan Tuan. I didn't expect him to be such a sentimental person. He could have escaped, but he came back. You, too, go kill him. The other two, come with me to find the treasured swords. Lei Old Wolf couldn't be bothered to kill Fan Tuan himself. Fan Tuan was strong for a 6th Division life-sizer, but compared to a 5th Division life-sizer like him, he was nothing. Right now, his most important task was to find the flame-revered sword and the snake-revered sword. Perhaps he could even find Ling Zhao's ring of holding. If he was lucky, Ling Zhao's ring of holding might even contain the cultivation method for a royal-class martial skill. The mere thought of that made him incredibly excited. Meanwhile, Fan Tuan was being intercepted by 2 6th Division life-seizers. Screw off! Fan Tuan's eyes were bloodshot. He wasn't a good person, and liked to con people into buying his things. He was also a fatty, but despite all his flaws, there was one thing he hadn't forgotten. That was friendship. Ling Zhao had saved his life, and in the nick of time let him escape. That was something he remembered very clearly. Even if Ling Zhao was dead, he would find the pieces of Ling Zhao's corpse, collect them piece by piece, and bring them out of the Archean tomb of the gods. Then he would send them to Ling Zhao's hometown for burial. Roaring madly, he slashed out with his saber. The 2 martial artists blocking his path actually did not have any reaction and were chopped into 2 by this saber. They died on the spot. Fan Tuan stared in shock for a moment, then understood. Although Ling Zhao was dead, the poison was still spreading through the bodies of the 2 martial artists. Although they didn't seem to have any problems, they were beyond cure. Furthermore, he was already stronger than martial artists of the same level. It was normal for him to kill 2 people with a single move. Realizing this, Fan Tuan felt even sadder. Ling Zhao was so strong and so talented. Why did he have to do that? He didn't understand. Chapter 30, 3:22. At this moment, Lei Old Wolf had already noticed the situation here and couldn't help but frown. You two continue searching. I'll go kill that fatty. He also realized that his subordinates probably didn't have the strength to fight against Fan Tuan now, so he could only do it himself. Lei Old Wolf quickly approached. Fan Tuan's blood-red eyes were filled with anger and killing intent. If it weren't for you, Brother Ling wouldn't be in danger. Go to hell. Fan Tuan knew that he wasn't a match for Lei Old Wolf, but at this moment he couldn't calm himself down. He only knew that killing Lei Old Wolf was for himself and Ling Zhao. Therefore, Lei Old Wolf had to die. Trash, you actually dare to attack me. Lei Old Wolf sneered. Although he was also affected by Ling Zhao's Death Kingdom black poison and bloodthirsty rat plague, the impact wasn't great. Previously, he was at the peak of the 7th level of the life-seizing realm. After being affected, he was only at the beginning of the 7th level of the life-seizing realm. He could still crush Fan Tuan. As he spoke, he had already attacked. Although Fan Tuan's combat strength skyrocketed in his anger, the difference in strength was still too great. After more than 10 rounds, Fan Tuan's body was already covered in wounds. It's already commendable for you to be able to reach this step. Unfortunately, it's still useless. Lei Old Wolf smiled coldly as he looked at Fan Tuan and said, I suddenly changed my mind. If you become my dog, I can let you live. Go to hell. I don't care. Fan Tuan didn't care anymore. He, who was covered in blood, pounced crazily at Lei Old Wolf. All right, since you don't want to be a dog, I'll fulfill your wish. Go to hell. Lei Old Wolf's saber was already brandishing. However, it stopped in the air and couldn't move. He looked up in surprise and saw a hand grabbing his saber like an iron claw, causing the saber to be unable to move at all. Ling Zhao, impossible. I clearly saw you being swallowed by the extreme cold blizzard. Lei Old Wolf looked at the person in front of him in horror. Are you a human or a ghost? Of course I'm a human. Ling Zhao casually swung his hand, and Lei Laolang and the saber in his hand were sent flying. Then he hurriedly took out a recovery pill and stuffed it into Fan Tuan's mouth, saying, I'm sorry, brother. I've made you suffer. You're really not dead? Fan Tuan also looked at Ling Xiao in astonishment. He simply couldn't believe it. Isn't it good to be alive? Ling Xiao smiled. Good. Of course. I'm relieved that you're not dead. As Fan Tuan spoke, he let out a long breath. Thinking that Ling Xiao was dead, he was prepared to perish together with Old Wolf Lei. That's impossible. The Arctic blizzard is one of the most terrifying natural disasters in the Archean Divine Tomb. Not even an 8th Division life-sizer could do anything to you. How could you possibly be unharmed? On the other side, Lei Old Wolf still thought that he was dreaming. He got up from the ground and looked at Ling Xiao as if he was looking at a ghost. He couldn't believe his eyes. Just because an 8th Division life-sizer couldn't do anything to me doesn't mean I couldn't. Ling Xiao chuckled. Truth be told, it had been extremely dangerous just now. Even though he was in his frost dragon form, he still felt like he was about to die in the Arctic blizzard. Thankfully, in the moment when he was about to be frozen to death, his latent potential erupted. In one fell swoop, he broke through to the 5th Division of life-seizing. His cultivation base, Breakthrough, brought about demonic lightning tribulation. When the demonic lightning tribulation and the Arctic blizzard collided, they cancelled each other out, giving Ling Xiao the opportunity to survive 2 terrifying disasters at the same time. Furthermore, his cultivation base was firmly in the 5th Division of life-seizing. Of course, it was all too bizarre, and he couldn't be bothered to explain it to anyone. In any case, it was a fact that his cultivation base had broken through, and his strength had skyrocketed. Of course, Lei Old Wolf didn't know that. Kid, I don't care if you're a human or a ghost. Today, you have to hand over those 2 swords. Otherwise, if you're a human, I'll tear you to pieces. If you're a ghost, I'll make sure you never enter the cycle of reincarnation. Is that so? I'd like to see how you're going to make sure I never enter the cycle of reincarnation. Ling Xiao looked at the raging Lei Old Wolf calmly with a hint of disdain in his eyes. Brother, you have to be careful. Lei Old Wolf must have some special skills to be able to get to where he is today. Fan Tuan knew that Ling Xiao was about to fight Lei Old Wolf, and he couldn't interfere in this matter. He probably couldn't. He could only tell Ling Xiao to be careful. Don't worry, Brother Fan. I've wanted to destroy this guy for a long time. The reason why I've been holding back is because I'm not confident. But now, you just have to wait and watch the show. Ling Xiao smiled at Fan Tuan, then looked back at Lei Old Wolf and said, Come, let me see how strong you are. His contemptuous actions could be said to have completely provoked Old Wolf Lei. Lei Old Wolf roared, and the image of a giant wolf appeared behind him. The wolf was completely black, and its body was incomparably huge. Its eyes were scarlet. At first glance, one could tell that it was some kind of powerful beast soul. It was definitely not to be trifled with. Ling Xiao sneered in disdain and instantly entered the Frost Dragon Beast Soul transformation. In the glacier region, the most suitable Beast Soul transformation was naturally this kind of Beast Soul transformation. The armor made of ice emitted a gloomy and bloody aura. Even Fan Tuan, who was standing there, couldn't help but shiver. Are you the only one who can transform? Lei Old Wolf sneered and entered the Beast Soul transformation state as well. His body suddenly increased by more than 2 meters, and his body became even stronger. His strange eyes emitted a blood-red glow, just like a werewolf under the moonlight. My transformation can increase my strength by several times. You're no match for me. Now that things had come to this, Lei Old Wolf definitely wanted to kill Ling Xiao. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to take it lying down. This was a gamble. If he won, all of Ling Xiao's treasures would be his. If he lost, he could only escape in a hurry. He was still very confident in his ability to escape. In the past, Lei Old Wolf had been hunted down many times because he betrayed others. However, he was always safe and sound because of his ability to escape. Therefore, in his opinion, he was in an invincible position in today's battle. What was there to be afraid of? You talk too much nonsense. Ling Xiao snorted coldly. With a wave of his hand, the Ice Supreme sword appeared in his hand while the Fire Supreme sword was kept. In such a cold place, the Ice Supreme sword could unleash its power even more. Ling Xiao didn't dare to be negligent when dealing with Lei Old Wolf. Apart from the beast soul transformation, he even took out the fine emperor-level treasured sword. Oh, I didn't expect you to have a third fine emperor-level treasured sword. Indeed, you have too many treasures on you. Seeing the Ice Supreme sword, Lei Old Wolf's determination to kill Ling Xiao deepened. He didn't use the Bloodthirsty Plague or the Death Kingdom Black Poison because these methods were used by Ling Xiao when dealing with experts. With his current cultivation, he had the ability to compete with Lei Old Wolf. There was no need for so many methods. Chapter 33:23. Ling Xiao shouted coldly. His body trembled, and the ice-revered sword in his hand had already stabbed out. He didn't use any sword moves, just an ordinary attack. However, under the enhancement of the glacier area's cold, coupled with the Ice Blast Dragon Beast Soul transformation, this ordinary attack could erupt with the power of a high-level general-level martial skill. It was already close to the lethality of the Golden Dragon Seal. Wild Wolf Demon Saber. Seeing Ling Xiao rush over, Lei Old Wolf naturally didn't dare to be careless. The saber in his hand suddenly slashed down, and a whistling sound could be heard amidst the whistling sound. In Ling Xiao's eyes, it was as if a ferocious wolf had bared its fangs and was about to bite him. The air was filled with a rain of blood and wind. Go to hell! Lei Old Wolf's saber had already landed on the ice-revered sword in Ling Xiao's hand. In his opinion, his Wild Wolf Demon Saber was a high-level general-level martial skill. Ling Xiao was only using an ordinary attack. How could he deal with it? I don't think so. Boom! A huge roar sounded, blowing away most of the snow on the ground. Ling Xiao's ice-revered sword actually blocked Lei Old Wolf's attack from above. How could this be? Lei Old Wolf's expression changed drastically. As a rogue cultivator, Lei Old Wolf didn't have a clan or sect that he could rely on. Therefore, it wasn't easy for him to cultivate to the 7th level of the life-seizing realm. He didn't have any particularly powerful martial skills. The strongest was a high-level general-level martial skill, the Wild Wolf Demon Saber. Now that even the Wild Wolf Demon Saber couldn't hurt Ling Xiao, how could he win? He was already a little scared. 7th level of the life-seizing realm? That's it. Golden Dragon Seal. The moment the ice-revered sword blocked his opponent's saber, Ling Xiao's left hand formed a seal, and a domineering golden dragon pierced through the void and slammed into Lei Old Wolf, sending him flying. However, the defensive power of the werewolf transformation was really strong. His recovery ability was also abnormal. After being hit by the golden dragon seal, Lei Old Wolf spat out blood and a few of his ribs were broken. However, this guy actually recovered in a short time. It was as if he wasn't injured. So strong is this brother Ling's true strength? Fan Tuan was watching the battle from the side. At first, he was still a little worried, but seeing this, he was not worried at all. The strength that Ling Xiao displayed was truly shocking. Even a 7th Division life-sizer, like Lightning Old Wolf, was being suppressed by him. Of course, Fan Tuan didn't know. With a cultivation base in the 5th Division of life-seizing, Ling Xiao didn't even need to transform to fight a 6th Division life-sizer. Normally speaking, he would be able to fight 7th Division life-seizers. The Frost Dragon Beast Soul transformation was an ordinary transformation, but it could suppress Lei Old Wolf with the advantage of martial techniques. The truth was that Ling Xiao had a huge advantage. The main reason was that Lightning Old Wolf, a 7th Division life-sizer, was simply too weak. He didn't even have a martial arts technique at the peak of the general realm. How could he fight with him? Coupled with the effects of the bloodthirsty rat plague and the Death Kingdom's black poison, Their strength had weakened significantly. They were no match for Ling Xiao. Fan Tuan didn't know this, and neither did Old Wolf Lei. The taste of blood in his mouth made Lei Old Wolf even crazier. "You seem to have broken through?" Lei Old Wolf asked viciously. "Not bad. The extreme cold blizzard didn't kill me. Instead, it allowed my cultivation to advance. You missed the best chance to kill me, idiot." Ling Xiao mocked. "I'll kill you all the same now. Werewolf moonlight form." As he roared, Lei Old Wolf's fur suddenly grew longer. His body was also suffused with blood-red moonlight. A pair of fangs were clearly visible in his mouth. The sharpness of its claws was comparable to that of a fine emperor weapon. He abandoned his saber and stared at Ling Xiao, preparing for the final battle. The changes in his appearance were only superficial. However, Lei Old Wolf's transformation made him several times stronger in battle. He was even more terrifying than when he transformed into an ordinary werewolf. "Little bastard, you easily blocked my attack just now. But let's see how you block this one. In my moonlight werewolf form, my advanced general level martial technique can explode with the power of a peak general level martial technique." A "wuh," Lei Laolang let out a wolf-like howl. Then his body flashed, and his whole body turned into a black shadow, quickly approaching Ling Xiao. "This time you will die. Moonlight werewolf kill. Demonic wolf claw." Following Lei Laolang's furious roar, his body suddenly jumped up midway and then fell from the sky. His sharp claws shone with blood-red light as he clawed at Ling Xiao's head. "Be careful, Brother Ling. No one in the 7th tier of life seizing can block this move. If you get hit by it, even if you don't die, you'll lose a layer of skin." Fan Tuan had seen Lei Old Wolf attack like this before. This was Lei Old Wolf's trump card. He didn't use it under normal circumstances, but when he did, it was absolutely shocking. Martial artists in the same level as him wouldn't dare to block it directly. Not to mention that Ling Xiao was only in the 5th tier of life seizing. How could he block it? Fan Tuan's injuries hadn't healed yet, but he still struggled to his feet, hoping to help Ling Xiao at the critical moment. "Brother Fan, stay there and don't move." However, the moment he stood up, he heard Ling Xiao's voice. He was stunned. In such an intense battle, Ling Xiao actually knew what he was doing. Wasn't this a little too powerful? Or did this guy not take Lei Old Wolf seriously at all? Was the previous battle just a test? Equivalent to a peak general level martial technique? Haha. Then I'll show you how terrifying a true peak general level martial technique is. Ling Xiao didn't plan to use a king level martial technique at all. It would be a waste to use it on Lei Old Wolf. A peak general level martial technique was enough to crush his opponent. As he spoke, the revered ice sword in his hand flashed with a cold light and then actually burned. The flame was red and white, but it wasn't hot but cold. It was as cold as an extremely cold snowstorm. As expected, when I use the Extermination Divine sword with the revered ice sword, the attribute of the flame will change, but the power won't weaken. Ling Xiao was going to use the Extermination Divine sword. The bright white light formed a white ball of light in the sky, like a white sun. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The terrifying white flame kept expanding and burning. The revered ice sword in Ling Xiao's hand was also gathering power. Extermination Divine sword. As Ling Xiao roared, the revered ice sword stabbed out. The revered ice sword, which emitted a cold white light, instantly stabbed towards Lei Old Wolf. No. No. Lei Old Wolf also realized that this terrifying sword, Qi, contained the power to destroy heaven and earth. This power was enough to completely destroy him. Boom! His claws first touched the sword, Qi, released by the revered ice sword. After a moment of stalemate, the claws instantly shattered as if they were made of cardboard. After that, the Ice Supreme sword easily penetrated Old Wolf Lei's defense and pierced through his body. Chapter 30, 3:24. As soon as the hysterical scream sounded, it stopped abruptly. That was because the cold white light had already frozen Lei Laolang into an ice sculpture. From the inside out, his entire body was frozen. Ling Xiao casually took out Lei Laolang's storage ring from the ice. Then the ice sculpture fell onto the hard, frozen ground and shattered into pieces. Fan Tuan watched this scene with his mouth agape, while Lei Laolang's underling had already escaped. Seeing Ling Xiao's ability, they didn't dare to be enemies with Ling Xiao even if they were beaten to death. Not to mention them, even Lei Laolang never thought that not only would he be defeated in the end, he wouldn't even be able to use his ability to escape and would die so muddle-headedly. He knew that Ling Xiao might know a king-rank martial skill, but he thought that it was an attack released by some kind of treasure. Therefore, he didn't pay much attention to it. Only at this moment, when Ling Xiao used a peak general rank martial skill, did he suddenly understand. He was very wrong. Unfortunately, the moment he understood this, he could no longer speak or think. "Brother Ling, you're really awesome." Fan Tuan was also very surprised. He originally thought that even if Ling Xiao could defeat Lei Laolang, he would have to expend a lot of energy. But now, it seemed that wasn't the case at all. It was too easy for Ling Xiao to kill Lei Laolang. It's a pity that I'm still too far away from Prince Tian's level. Killing Lei Laolang was delightful, but when he thought of his target being Prince Tian, Ling Xiao couldn't be happy. His strength had to continue to increase. Even if he defeated Prince Tian, there were still existences like the Soul Hall's Master, Dark Frost, and the myriad Kingdom Dragon Mother. Not to mention the powerful Four Regions. The path of martial arts really had no limits. Emperor, Brother Ling, your ambition is really big, but I think you should be able to do it. If it was outside the door of the Divine Tomb, Fan Tuan would never think that Ling Xiao could defeat Lei Laolang. He also wouldn't believe that he could catch up to Prince Tian's strength. But after experiencing so many things, he changed his mind. Ling Xiao could definitely become an expert on the same level as Prince Tian, or perhaps even stronger. What Tianhai tyranny, Feng Fei, what Shui Weining, what Dragon Shark, all of them were suppressed by him. Thank you for your encouragement. However, the battle just now caused too much of a commotion. Let's head to Bingqing first. Ling Xiao could not protect Fan Tuan forever, because he knew that his ability was not enough. Because of this, he had no choice but to send Long Qin to Prince Tian's place to cultivate. Fan Tuan's combat prowess might not be stronger than Long Qin's. If they stayed together, it would be extremely disadvantageous for him. Fan Tuan seemed to have seen through Ling Xiao's worries. He smiled and said, "Brother Ling, when we reach Bingqing, we should go our separate ways. I know you have great ambitions, and I want to help you. Unfortunately, my strength is too weak and I can't help you. But if you have anything you want to ask me, as long as I know, I will definitely tell you." "Thank you." Ling Xiao was very grateful for Fan Tuan's understanding. On the way to Bingqing, Fan Tuan told him everything he knew about the immemorial Divine Tomb. Previously, he had concealed some things, but this time, he did not hide anything at all. Like spilling beans from a bamboo tube, he told Ling Xiao everything without leaving out a single word. As the two spoke, they had already reached the outskirts of Bingqing. The huge ice city was completely made of ice. The guards of the ice city were all wearing thick and heavy metal armor. Their bodies were almost completely covered, only revealing a pair of eyes. Thus, it was difficult to tell whether they were humans or other races. Along the way, with Ling Xiao's help, Fan Tuan's godly devil token had already been upgraded to the 6th rank. Fan Tuan's strength was not low to begin with. With Ling Xiao's help from the side, he naturally killed many martial artists. As for Ling Xiao's own godly devil token, it had also been upgraded to the 5th rank. This was an accident. He had not planned to upgrade his token, but the other martial artists did not think so. When they saw the two of them, they attacked in a frenzy. Then they were killed, and the Godly Devil token was upgraded. In the beginning, upgrading the Godly Devil token was relatively easy, but as it progressed, it became slower and slower. That was especially true at the final stage, where it was extremely difficult to upgrade. Of course, Fan Tuan was the one who told Ling Xiao all of this. Although Fan Tuan was not very strong, he knew quite a bit. Let's get some rest in the city. You must be tired from all the killing, right? Fan Tuan breathed a sigh of relief when they reached the city gates. He had no shortage of spirit stones. As a profiteer, he had brought plenty of spirit stones just so he could stay in the city for a bit longer. All right, Ling Xiao had no shortage of mid-grade spirit stones, and he also wanted to know more about Bingqing. The more he learned, the more beneficial it would be for his future adventures. The Godly Devil King guarding Bingqing is the Ice King. He should be in the 9th level of life seizing. Other than Dark Frost and Dragon Mother, I doubt anyone could defeat him alone. Fan Tuan looked at the flag floating in the air above Bingqing, then turned to Ling Xiao. If the Godly Devil King is so strong, then how strong is the owner of the Godly Devil token? At the very least, he should be on the same level as Dark Frost and Dragon Mother, right? Ling Xiao sighed inwardly. Originally, he had hoped to see if he could take over a city, but now it seemed that wasn't going to happen. At the very least, not right now. Given his current strength, if he fought the Godly Devil King, he would definitely die. There was no way he could survive. The only reason he had been able to fight Prince Tian was because Prince Tian didn't understand him and had underestimated him. After all, not every expert would underestimate their opponent like Prince Tian did. As Ling Xiao and Fan Tuan entered Bingqing, the guards looked at them coldly, then ignored them. Scary Yang Qi said, I heard that the weakest of the guards is in the 7th level of life seizing. Fan Tuan breathed a sigh of relief. Although he knew that the guards wouldn't target them, he still couldn't help but be afraid. After all, the power of the guards was terrifying to the extreme. Ling Xiao frowned. Although Fan Tuan had told him a lot about the primeval god necropolis, he still didn't quite understand what it meant. Shaking his head, Yang Qi decided not to think too much about it. After entering Bingqing, the two of them went their separate ways. Fan Tuan went to find some friends he knew. As for Ling Xiao, he decided to look around, especially the market. Perhaps he could find some medicinal ingredients to treat the cold plum. However, before he could get very far, he saw a figure flying in his direction. Without even thinking about it, he reached out to grab it. Upon closer inspection, he realized that it was Fan Tuan. Fan Tuan had one of his arms severed and was bleeding profusely. Ling Xiao was very shocked. Wasn't it forbidden to fight in the city? What's going on? Ling Xiao asked Fan Tuan. Run. It's the executioner. We can't afford to offend him. Fan Tuan shouted, holding up his severed arm. It was obvious that he was terrified and helpless. Chapter 30, 325. Ling Xiao did not know what an executioner was. Just as he was about to ask, he saw two men walking towards him from afar. These two men were not warriors from the western region. Ling Xiao had a good memory. If he had met someone before, he would have an impression of them even if he could not remember their name. Obviously, he had never met these two men before. Escape? Who can escape after being targeted by us executioners? One of them was fat while the other was skinny. They were wearing the same clothes, but they were different in size. The words executioner were embroidered on the front and back of their clothes. Brother Fan, heal your wounds first. Tell me what an executioner is and why can they hurt people in the city? Ling Xiao did not know what the executioners were like. It was not appropriate for him to act rashly. Fan Tuan nodded and reattached his severed arm to the wound. Then, he took the healing pill that Ling Xiao gave him. He continued, The executioners are the subordinates of the divine demon king. They are here to deal with troublemakers. If a warrior from the western region dares to cause trouble or even kill someone in the city, they will appear and punish him. The executioners can hurt and kill people in the city. Normally, they will not leave the city, so they are almost invincible in this city. But we did not cause any trouble. What did you do just now? Ling Xiao could not help but ask. I really didn't do anything. I was just about to look for an inn to stay in when these two executioners accused me of killing in Bingqing and attacked me. I'm still confused about what happened. Fan Tuan smiled bitterly. At this moment, another man ran over. He was wearing armor and looked like a soldier. Reporting to the two executioners, that fatty has been executed. Hearing this, Ling Xiao seemed to have understood something. After all this, it was a misunderstanding. Did they recognize the wrong person? Is it not him? One of the executioners pointed at Fan Tuan and asked, Sir, you're mistaken. Although they're both fatties, that person's weight is much heavier, and his looks are also very different. The soldier smiled bitterly. I see. I made a mistake. These ants look the same. The skinny executioner glanced at Fan Tuan and said, I hate fatties. The fat executioner added, I hate fatties who are fatter than me. Get lost. What are you still standing there for? Are you waiting for us to apologize to you? The skinny executioner sneered. No, no, no. The two of you are so busy every day. There will always be times when you make mistakes. I can understand. Fan Tuan said hurriedly. He knew Ling Xiao's temper. If he didn't speak first, he was afraid that Ling Xiao would really annoy the two executioners. Understand my ass. The more I look at you, the more I can't see you. How could we be wrong? The skinny executioner sneered. Do you really think we are wrong? Actually, you didn't. You just stepped on a cockroach before you entered the inn. By now, its corpse should still be stuck to the bottom of your feet. The evidence is irrefutable. You can't deny it. That cockroach is my pet. Ha ha ha, that's right. How could we do anything wrong? We are executioners. The fat executioner laughed out loud and walked toward Fan Tuan at the same time. It was obvious that he wanted to erase his mistake completely. Fan Tuan still wanted to say something, but he was blocked by Ling Xiao. Facing the aggressive executioners, Ling Xiao couldn't hold it in anymore. Anyway, even if he swallowed the insult, the other party wouldn't let him go. He might as well use the hard way. Kid, what are you trying to do? The skinny executioner sneered. You will die if you stand up for your friend, the fat executioner added. The ones who will die are you. Apologize to my friend immediately and get lost. Then you can still keep your lives. Otherwise, I'll make you suffer the same fate as that cockroach. You won't be able to see the sun tomorrow. Ling Xiao wasn't like Fan Tuan. He was very domineering. The two executioners in front of him were even weaker than Lei Laoling. How could he be afraid? Hey, he said he wants to kill us. Ha! The fat executioner looked at the other executioner and laughed out loud as if he had heard the funniest joke in the world. I heard it. This person is probably crazy, the skinny executioner said in disdain. The two of them didn't take Ling Xiao seriously at all. It wasn't just because of his strength. More importantly, the executioners could do anything they wanted in the city, and martial artists couldn't do anything to the executioners. Once they did, they would become wanted criminals. They wouldn't be able to enter any of the 10 cities. That guy is crazy. If he offends the executioners, we will be in trouble too. The surrounding martial artists also gathered. They were very dissatisfied with Ling Xiao's behavior. That's right. Last time, someone attacked the executioners and was killed. He even implicated the other martial artists, and they were all taught a lesson. All of them were miserable. However, their words didn't affect Ling Xiao at all. What could he do? Could he just stand there and watch Fan Tuan get killed? The problem was that the executioners might not let him go even if Fan Tuan was killed. He could only act tough. Moreover, this was in line with his character. If anyone dared to hurt his friend, he wouldn't even forgive Bing Wang. let alone the executioners. "Shut up if you don't want to die." Ling Xiao instantly transformed into his shadow rabbit beast soul. A cloud of black smoke covered his body. His figure started to fade in and out of sight. His combat power also skyrocketed at that moment. "You two scumbags. Go to hell." Shadow Dancer. Ling Xiao's figure suddenly disappeared in front of everyone. However, the two executioners didn't seem to care too much. "You said it so bravely. So, you were just trying to escape. Haha, what a piece of trash." The fat executioner sneered and looked at Fan Tuan. "Fatty, you really made a good friend." "Shut up. Don't insult my friend. It's good that he's gone. Anyway, I can see that you guys are just looking for trouble. You guys don't care about the lives of the martial artists from the Western region." Fan Tuan was afraid, but he wasn't anymore. He was going to die anyway. What was the use of being afraid? "You're just stubborn." The skinny executioner sneered. None of the onlookers sympathized with Fan Tuan. They all looked at Fan Tuan with disgust. It was as if they were saying, since the executioners want to kill you, you should just accept your death obediently. Barrier martial spirit, release. Suddenly, the street was surrounded by a strange barrier. The onlookers were also trapped inside. "That brat is actually playing tricks on us?" The fat and skinny executioners frowned. They attacked the two barriers at the same time. However, it was useless. No matter how much strength they used, they couldn't break the barrier. "Find that kid and kill him. It's just a trick of invisibility." The two executioners knew that they couldn't break the barrier, so they didn't waste any more time. Instead, they released their soul power to search for Ling Xiao's location. Suddenly, a sharp sword pierced through the skinny executioner's throat. Chapter 33:26. No. Impossible. How did you avoid being detected by our soul power? The skinny executioner's last words were filled with shock. After killing the skinny executioner, Ling Xiao revealed himself. Looking coldly at the fat executioner, he said, "Do you think you can do whatever you want just because you have control of the city? Others might not dare to touch you, but I have nothing to fear. How dare you kill an executioner? Aren't you afraid of being hunted down by all 10 cities?" The fat executioner was clearly afraid. "So what? If I kill all of you, who'll know it was me?" Ling Xiao said mockingly. From the moment he had activated his martial soul, Ling Xiao had made up his mind to kill everyone who had seen what had happened. The cold eyes and ugly faces of the executioners only served to strengthen his resolve. Furthermore, the Archean tomb of the gods was a place of life and death. If he didn't kill others, others would kill him. He had seen too much on his way here. This place definitely could not be treated as a normal country. Instead, it was a game of survival and survival. "Little brother, can we talk this over? Let me go, and I promise I won't tell anyone about what happened here." When the fat executioner saw Ling Xiao kill the skinny executioner, he realized how terrifying this young man was. Therefore, he was starting to feel afraid. "Do you think I'm a 3-year-old? Idiot," Ling Xiao said mockingly. "Listen up, everyone. Whoever helps me kill this kid, I'll give him a special medallion after we get out of here." Seeing that he couldn't convince Ling Xiao, the fat executioner began to shout. A special medallion was a medallion that allowed one to eat and live in the city for free. In addition, one didn't have to pay 10,000 mid-grade spirit stones per day. It was a very tempting thing. In a flash, everyone charged toward Ling Xiao, hoping to tear Ling Xiao to shreds. My luck isn't bad, Yang Qi thought. None of these people are in the 7th level of life-seizing. Ling Xiao thought to himself. He pulled out the flame, sovereign sword. After that, a strange flame shot out from the sword. A map of the divine tombs of the western regions appeared behind Ling Xiao. The fire-revered sword fused with it and flew out again, completely turning into a blazing sword of fire. I'll let you have a taste of true fear. There were too many enemies, and using other methods to kill them would be too inefficient. So Ling Xiao planned to use Supreme Flame Blazing Sky Sword Art. A terrifying flaming sword flew out and slaughtered its way into the crowd. A raging flame storm began to form, engulfing all of the enemies. Then miserable screams rang out one after another. Unfortunately, with the existence of the spirit formation martial spirit, it was impossible to transmit the message. In just an instant, everyone was killed. Ling Xiao felt that his true essence was almost at the bottom and could not help but smile bitterly. Even after breaking through to the 5th division of life seizing, he still didn't have enough true energy. However, it was much stronger than before. Back when he was in the 4th division of the life seizing level, he had used the 9 Sovereigns sword incantation only once and had run out of internal energy. If not for his pills, he would not have been able to escape from Prince Tian's pursuit. Thankfully, he had about 30% of his true essence left, which was very good. He popped a healing pill into his mouth. Then he deactivated his spirit formation, martial spirit, and disappeared from the street with Fan Tuan. All that was left was a mess. Before long, someone arrived at the scene. I can't believe someone dares to act so recklessly in Bingqing. I refuse to believe that I can't find out who it is. Screen them one by one and check all the Western region martial artists who entered Bingqing. The person who had just spoken was obviously one of the executioners in Bingqing, although he was clearly stronger than the executioners. Apparently, there were different levels of executioners. Yes, sir. This is a mess. Ling Xiao and Fan Tuan were walking through the streets of Bingqing. They couldn't get out. The moment the executioners were killed, the city gates were sealed, and only people were allowed to enter, not leave. Fan Tuan looked at the chaotic streets, which were filled with people wearing armor and executioners' uniforms. He couldn't help but sigh. It's all my fault. If not for me, you wouldn't have killed those people. It doesn't matter. What's done is done. I can't bear to see an executioner like that. Ling Xiao wasn't nervous at all. He walked on the streets, observing the huge city. His Tai Chi told him that this city had been standing here for at least 10,000 years. It was definitely not built by the owner of the Fiend God Order. It should have existed before and was later occupied by the owner of the Fiend God Order. Brother, aren't you worried? As long as they continue to investigate, they will find us sooner or later. Fan Tuan wasn't in the mood to enjoy the scenery around him and said with fear, You can't have this mentality. Anyway, no one saw what we did. We just have to pretend that we didn't do anything. Ling Xiao laughed. Sai, it's easy for you to say. I don't have such a good mentality like you. Fan Tuan sighed. Ling Xiao was about to say something when suddenly a loud sound came from the city gate. Rumble. Then screams rang out. Not good. The myriad countries are attacking Bingqing. A scream came from the crowd. The soldiers and executioners of Bingqing stopped, looking for the murderer, and rushed toward the city gate. Let's go. We don't want to be implicated. In fact, from the moment Ling Xiao stepped into Bingqing, he had already thought about it. In these 10 cities, the strongest person was only a 9th level life-sizer. Dragon Mother of the Myriad Countries and Dark Frost of the Soul Hall were both above the reincarnation god realm. They naturally had the ability to take over the city. Even if the Celestial Dynasty and the Avenging Alliance were weaker, they could still do it. He just didn't expect the Myriad Countries to come so quickly, dragging Fan Tuan along. Ling Xiao hid in a secluded place and began to observe this grand battle. The Myriad Countries were too strong, with Dragon Mother in the lead and her children behind her. Among them, Dragon Shark was the most terrifying. The guards of Bingqing couldn't stop him at all. In the end, the Ice King guarding Bingqing came out to fight, but he was also killed by Dragon Mother in 10 moves. Bingqing had completely become the stronghold of the Myriad Countries. Listen up. Bingqing is now the stronghold of the myriad countries. Everyone can enter and leave freely, but we will take care of the spirit stones you pay. Everything else remains the same. The one who spoke was Dragon Mother's second son, Shui Weining. Although he wasn't the strongest of Dragon Mother's children, he showed up quite a lot. With that, the martial artists of the myriad countries began to take over Bingqing, while Dragon Mother, Dragon Shark, and a few top experts entered the Bingqing Lord's residence. Are we saved? Fan Tuan looked at the scene in shock and muttered to himself. Yeah, we're saved. Ling Xiao wasn't thinking about that, but strength. Indeed, the weak were prey to the strong. As long as you were strong enough, you could even kill the subordinates of the fiend god Token's owner. He guessed that the other three forces should be occupying the cities at this time. After all, they were going to stay here for half a year. It would be more convenient to have a stronghold. Chapter 33:27. Big Brother Fan, I have to leave. Ice City is safer now, and you are a martialist from the myriad nations, so they will definitely treat you well. However, I hope to go out and seek opportunities. You won't stand a chance if you hide here. Ling Xiao stood up. Then I wish you success. Fan Tuan knew that Ling Xiao was very ambitious, and he definitely wouldn't be able to stop him. Of course. Fan Tuan also hoped that Ling Xiao could become stronger. Having a friend like Luo Yunyang would make his future path much easier. Until we meet again. Ling Xiao turned around and walked out of the city. The battle had already ended, so the guards at the city gates didn't stop them from leaving. Wait a minute. This map points to a place that is second only to the 8 great imperial tombs. It is called the General's Tomb. However, I don't know if this is true. Perhaps there is more than one map. It would be best if it would be useful to you. Fan Tuan finally made the decision to hand over his most precious map to Ling Xiao. This was the inheritance that he had hoped to obtain. However, after going through so much, he still felt that it would be safer to hand it over to Ling Xiao. He might even be able to get a share of the treasures in the General's tomb after Ling Xiao obtained them. Thank you. Ling Xiao didn't stand on ceremony. Having a map was much better than looking around aimlessly, even though this map might not be useful. The two of them parted ways. Ling Xiao left Ice City and followed the map to an ice lake. There was actually an ice mountain that had been turned into a tomb on the ice lake. The words, Icy General's Tomb, were written on it. There really is one, but there are quite a lot of people here. Ling Xiao looked around and saw at least a few hundred martialists surrounding the ice lake. He used his Taiji eye to look at the tomb and suddenly felt a powerful force resonating with the true Yuan in his body. It was a feeling that made one's heart surge. It was as if every cell in his body was jumping up and about to start practicing martial arts. Ling Xiao was almost certain that there were treasures in the tomb. Master, can you feel it? Ling Xiao asked Yuan Venerate. Of course. The map that Fan Tuan gave you is real, but it's a pity that others have also found this place. According to my past experience, the Frost General's tomb should contain the cultivation experience that will ensure his victory and his remnant soul. As long as you can get it, your cultivation will definitely speed up a lot. Furthermore, there are many benefits that you can't even imagine. Yuan Venerate replied, I see. It seems that I have to get the treasures in the Frost General's tomb. Ling Xiao's current goal was to increase his strength. As far as he was concerned, the 9 supreme sword techniques were more than enough. What he needed now was to increase his cultivation. Based on what the Yuan Venerate had said, the items in the Icy General's tomb could greatly increase his cultivation speed. As for how much it could improve, no one knew before using it. But how could Ling Xiao let such a good thing slip away from his eyes? He began to observe the situation around him and found that most of the martial artists guarding here were myriad kingdom martial artists. The core martialists of the 4 great factions all had their own standard attire that was easy to recognize. The The martialists of the myriad kingdom martial artists blocked the entrance to the ice lake, so the other martialists could only look on enviously. Everyone knew that there were good things in the icy general's tomb, but only the 4 great factions would be able to obtain them. Damn it! Even if we find such treasures, we can only watch helplessly. I don't know who leaked the news to the people of Toto Land, but the experts of Toto Land rushed over so quickly. How unlucky! Yeah, this is really annoying. The core martialists of the 4 great factions should have gone to fight for the 8 great imperial tombs. Why did they have to fight with us for the treasures in the general's tomb? Aren't they trying to leave us with nothing? Forget it. What else do you want? It's already good enough that you can keep your life. Yeah, look at how terrifying the martialists of the myriad kingdom martial artists are. There are more than 20 people guarding the tomb, and almost all of them are at the 7th level of the life-seizing realm. We can only watch from the sidelines. Even so, I'm still jealous. I heard that there's memory metal in the general's tomb. If you obtain it, you can comprehend consummate techniques and improve your cultivation base. 200 years ago, the general's tomb appeared once, and the memory metal was obtained by the myriad kingdom martial artists. Since then, the number of experts in the myriad kingdom martial artists has grown like leaks. Hee, let's just talk about this in private. If the martialists of the myriad kingdom martial artists heard this, even if they didn't die, they would lose a layer of skin. They just occupied Ice City and are now the overlords of the glacier region. Sigh. Ling Xiao heard all of this conversation. He didn't know much about the general's tomb. The information that Yuan Venerates had given him was also limited. Therefore, it would be good to listen in on what others were talking about. Ling Xiao estimated that the martialists in the general's tomb were probably stronger than the Dragon Mother and Darkfrost back in the day. Apart from the ancient Sword Emperor's tomb and the 8 great imperial tombs, the general's tomb was probably the best treasure. Because of this, the myriad kingdom martial artists guarded this place very tightly. They were probably worried that outsiders would come and fight for it. They had probably taken over Ice City in one fell swoop to prepare for the treasures in the general's tomb. Come to think of it, there weren't many people who could become the enemy of the myriad kingdom martial artists. Apart from the Soul Hall, the Celestial Dynasty, and the Alliance of Vengeance, no one else had that kind of power. Given Ling Xiao's current strength, it was simply impossible for him to snatch the treasures in the general's tomb by force. At the moment, the most he could do was kill 7th Division Life Seizers. But even that one was enough to drain him of all his energy. There were a total of 20 of them. Therefore, he could only use his wits and not force his way through. Fortunately, he knew array formations, so there would still be opportunities. He planned to wait here for the best opportunity before making his move. He definitely wouldn't give up the treasures in the general's tomb. This was his first opportunity to become stronger. At the same time, in the Lord's residence of Ice City, the Dragon Mother's huge body took up a quarter of the entire hall. Beside her were her 4 most outstanding children. These 4 were known as the 4 kings of the myriad kingdoms. The first was the dragon shark, who was the most talented and powerful of the 4. He was the son that the Dragon Mother was most proud of. The second was the 3rd daughter, Koyu, who was just as talented as the dragon shark, although she was a bit weaker. She was the daughter that the Dragon Mother was most proud of. Supposedly, the Dragon Mother was planning to marry her daughter, Koyu, to Prince Tian of the Celestial Dynasty. She wanted to merge the myriad kingdoms and the Celestial Dynasty and make them even more powerful. Prince Tian agreed as well. After the primeval god tomb was over, they would get married. The 3rd was the 32nd daughter, Devil Eye, whose soul power was no weaker than that of the spirit folk. That was especially true of the eye on her forehead, which was extremely terrifying. The 4th was the eldest son, Mirror Devil, who had a very special martial soul that could do things that others couldn't. Chapter 33:28. The 4 kings and Dragon Mother had convened a meeting to discuss 2 things. The first was the betrothal between the Koi King and Imperial Prince Tian. The Koi King stood there like a delicate white lotus flower. Both her face and figure were of the highest quality, especially her haughty air, which was something no ordinary person could possess. If Ling Xiao was here, he'd definitely sense some resemblance to Feng Fei. But in terms of strength and status, she was far superior to Feng Fei. Koya, Imperial Prince Tian's already headed for the Celestial Sword Tomb. If he can obtain the legacy of Celestial Sword Ancient Emperor, he'll be a second Dark Frost. You have no complaints about marrying him, right? Dragon Mother looked at the Koi King. Mother, you're too polite. The Celestial Emperor is an outstanding talent among men, and the Imperial Prince of the Celestial Dynasty. In all of the Western regions, which man is more outstanding than him? Even fourth brother and eldest brother can't compare to him. It's an honor for me to marry him. How could I have any complaints? The Koi King broke into a smile, clearly very happy. That's good. Since that's the case, then it's settled. There's also the matter of General Han's tomb, Dragon Mother continued. Dragon Mother continued. Coyly, this time, you and Wanning will head to the tomb to obtain the treasures. You should know, right? Although the treasures there aren't as good as those of the Imperial and Imperial tombs, they can still help martial artists gain enlightenment into the life-changing realm. That's higher than the 9th level of life-seizing, and infinitely close to the first rebirth god realm. Even for you, it'll be very useful. I've already sent experts to occupy the area, but it'll still be troublesome. Some of the Linglong Palace's people are active in the glacier region, so they'll definitely head there. As long as you guard against them, there won't be any problems. Your eldest brother, fourth brother, and 32nd sister need to go find the Imperial tomb, so we won't be able to help you. That won't be a problem, right? Mother, thank you for trusting me and giving me such an important mission. Don't worry, I'll take back the treasures in General Han's tomb very quickly. I definitely won't let the Linglong Palace succeed. The Koi King said hastily. Very good. Your mother's most outstanding daughter. You have talent and aptitude that's not inferior to anyone else's. The position of the Dragon Mother of Tado Land will only be passed down to women and not to men. In the future, you will be the new Dragon Mother. Mother believes that you can handle this matter well. Dragon Mother said with a smile. The Koi King smiled. He wasn't excited by the Dragon Mother's words at all. It was not because he was unhappy, but because he was already used to it. From the moment she was born, her talent was much stronger than others. The only one who could compete with her was her fourth brother, Long Sha. However, Dragon Shark is a man, and his status in Tado Land is not as high as a woman. Therefore, there was no way he could be her competitor. This time, Mother Dragon wanted her to go with Shui Weining to obtain the treasures in the Frost General's tomb so that she could break through to the reincarnation god realm as soon as possible. Although snatching heaven and exchanging life wasn't considered a realm, it was a threshold. Every life-sizer had to go through this hurdle. If he couldn't, he would forever be stuck in the 9th division of life-seizing. Once he passed it, he would definitely be able to break through to the reincarnation divine realm. All he needed was time. King Koi was only 20 years old and was already in the 9th division of life-seizing. This kind of strength was simply heaven-defying. Even in the Western domain, he was considered one of the most powerful. Of course, breaking through to the reincarnation god realm wasn't going to be easy. Therefore, the treasures in the Frost General's tomb were very important to her. If she could complete the snatching heaven and exchanging life, she would have a 100% chance of entering the reincarnation god realm. Many thanks for the praise, Mother. I'll get it done right away. When it came to her future, the Koi King was very enthusiastic. Even if she was going to marry Prince Tian, she didn't want to appear weak in front of him. As Mother Dragon's successor, she had to become very strong. Devil Eye, go find out where that person is. After instructing Koi King, Dragon Mother turned to Demon Eye King. The Devil Eye Queen was very petite and looked like a 12 or 13-year-old girl. In fact, she was only 13 years old. Although she was only in the 8th division of life seizing, her devil eye was enough to make her one of the 4 monarchs. Who could possibly be worth the devil eye's attention? The Koi King asked curiously. A young man named Ling Xiao, Mother Dragon replied coldly. He's the monarch of the 8 Immortals' kingdom. He killed quite a few of our people and ruined some of our plans. Mother Dragon said coldly, I heard that this person appeared in Ice City not long ago and killed 2 executioners. He's that strong? The Koi King asked curiously. He's very special, the Devil Eye Queen said. Her eyes were closed, and only the eye on her forehead was open. According to my Devil Eye, his cultivation base isn't very strong. He's probably only in the 5th division of life seizing. However, he has a royal-class martial skill, and even fought with Prince Tian. In fact, he injured Prince Tian, then escaped unscathed. Impossible. How could Prince Tian lose to trash like that? He's the most outstanding man in the world, the Koi King blurted. Of course Prince Tian didn't lose, the Devil Eye Queen said. He was just injured because he underestimated his opponent. Don't worry about it. That said, Mother Dragon said coldly, the fact that he managed to escape from Prince Tian shows how terrifying he really is. We need to get rid of him as soon as possible. Otherwise, he'll become a major threat to the Myriad Kingdoms. Furthermore, he definitely has a royal-class martial skill. If we get the chance, we need to take it from him. Just leave it to me, Mother, the Koi King said. I'll definitely kill him and take all of his treasures back. Mother Dragon, the Koi King said coldly. As far as she was concerned, Prince Tian was the man she had chosen. Therefore, Ling Xiao couldn't possibly hurt him, and royal-class martial skills were very attractive to her. All right, the Koi King said, I'll leave this ring of holding to you. Not only does it have a lot of storage space, but it also has a lot of defensive power. It won't be damaged by attacks. You must take good care of it. There are only 3 storage rings of this level in the entire Tata land. Mother Dragon knew that the Koi King would be bringing back a lot of treasures, so she handed her ring of holding over to the Koi King. Many thanks, Mother. I know what to do. The Koi King smiled. Mom, why don't I go with 3rd sister? I feel a little uneasy. The Mirror Devil King said. On the surface, the Mirror Devil King didn't look very different from a human. However, his martial soul was very special, and he had the blood of the sea folk in him. Although he wasn't as famous as the Dragon Shark King or the Koi King, he was still very strong. He was also in the 9th stage of the life-seizing level. All right, you 2 go together. After a moment of thought, Mother Dragon decided that her daughter's life was more important. Chapter 30, 329. Dragon Mother was convinced that 2 9th Division Life Seizers and 1 8th Division Life Sizer, Shui Weining, should be enough to handle the situation. Even if the Empress of the Palace of Dazzling showed up, they wouldn't have to worry. Let's go, 3rd sister. The Mirror Devil King said, looking at the Koi King. Eldest brother, the Koi King said, don't do anything rash. Like I said, I'll take care of things. The Koi King was very arrogant. Even if his own brother wanted to help him, he would still feel a little despised. Don't worry, the Mirror Devil King said coolly. Unless it's a dangerous situation, I won't interfere. The Mirror Devil King said coolly. Although he wasn't the most talented, as the eldest brother, he had a high position in the Myriad Kingdoms. His younger brothers and sisters still respected him, especially his 4th brother, the Dragon Shark King. Although his strength had already surpassed him, he still respected him very much. Perhaps that was why his other siblings didn't dare to look down on him. Ling Xiao was still observing the situation in the Frost General's tomb. Clearly, there were restrictive spells set up around the tomb. In other words, there were spell formations. Anyone who didn't understand spell formations or spell formations wouldn't be able to enter the tomb, and thus wouldn't be able to take anything. Seeing this, he couldn't help but smile. Next, he changed his appearance and body shape. When he had first acquired the Yin-Yang Devil King's power, he had assumed it wouldn't be very useful. But later, it proved to be very useful. In a critical moment, it could be used to save his own life or blend in with the enemy. He had a plan. Although the myriad kingdoms had many experts, it wouldn't be easy to break through the restrictive spells in the Frost General's tomb. However, he could open the tomb in the shortest time possible. When the time came, he would have to take a risk. He would pretend to be working for the myriad kingdoms, and then take the opportunity to steal the memory medal. It wasn't that he didn't care about the other treasures, but when it came to snatching food from the jaws of a tiger, he had no choice but to take what was most important to him. The memory medal was the key to improving his cultivation base. He had to get it. As for the other treasures, it didn't matter if the myriad kingdoms took them. One shouldn't be too greedy, otherwise they wouldn't get anything. Now that he had a plan, all that was left was to wait. He was confident that the myriad kingdoms would send experts to take the treasures in the Frost General's tomb. While he waited, he broke through the spell formations in the Frost General's tomb. This also created a convenient condition for his next plan. Before long, 3 people arrived at the same time. All 3 of them were very powerful. Ling Xiao recognized this water innumerable shadows. He was an 8th division life-sizer and extremely arrogant. However, the other man was clearly stronger than him. The clothes that this person was wearing were very special. It was like a mirror that could reflect one's reflection. This man was already strong enough, but the young woman standing in the middle was only 20 years old. However, her aura was even more terrifying than the 2 men. Ling Xiao even felt that this woman was not inferior to Prince Tian. In the past, I heard that the other 8 masters were much stronger than the Sword Dynasty. I thought it would be good if they were stronger by 1 or 2 realms. But now it seems that the gap is really big. Ling Xiao was secretly amazed. I know General Shui Weining, but who are those 2? I feel that they are even more terrifying than General Shui Weining. At this moment, a few warriors standing not far from Ling Xiao were also discussing who that person was. You don't know those 2 people? They're 2 of the 4 kings of the myriad kingdoms. The man is the Mirror Devil King, and the woman is the Koi Queen. They're the only candidates to be the future Dragon Mother. The other person seemed to be more familiar with the 4 kings of the myriad kingdoms, as if he had seen them somewhere before. I can't believe 2 of the 4 kings of the myriad kingdoms are here. It seems the myriad kingdoms really want the treasures in General Frost's tomb. You know, General Frost's life of cultivation experience can help martial artists gain enlightenment of the heaven-seizing fate swap level. It's very important to the 4 kings of the myriad kingdoms. After all, 3 of the 4 kings are at the peak of the 9th division life-seizing level. It's over. Completely over. If it was just Shui Weining, we might have a chance. But with these 2 here, all we can do is watch. Everyone was feeling very helpless. Originally, they had hoped to take advantage of the chaos to get their hands on 1 or 2 treasures. But now, it seemed that the myriad kingdoms had considered that possibility and had sent such a powerful force. After all, the 4 kings were under Dragon Mother. 2 of the 4 kings to come at once was no laughing matter. All they could do was watch as the myriad kingdoms' experts snatched the treasures away. After all, they were stronger than them. That said, the Koi Queen is really beautiful. Just looking at her makes my mouth water. If I could sleep with a woman like her, I'd die happy. Sure. Do you want to die? The Koi Queen is already married to Prince Tian of the Celestial Dynasty. One is the future king of the Celestial Dynasty. The other is the future Dragon Mother of the Myriad Kingdoms. If the 2 of them get together, the entire Western domain will be shaken. Either one of them can easily crush you like an ant. Haha, just kidding. Only a chosen of heaven like Prince Tian would be good enough for a woman like the Koi Queen. Prince Tian is the most outstanding martial artist under the age of 40. No one else can compare. Yeah. Young people these days are getting more and more amazing. Ling Xiao listened very carefully to the discussions of the crowd. Oh, Prince Tian's fiancé? I wonder what kind of expression you'll have on your face if I crush him beneath my feet one day. Ling Xiao chuckled to himself. He had already prepared everything. No matter who came, his plan would not change. Even if Dragon Mother came in person, it would still be the same. With life backtrack and earth golden light technique, his escape skills were unparalleled. So he had no need to be afraid. The Koi King obviously noticed the discussions around him and seemed to be in a good mood. Koi, let's open the general's tomb first. Mirror Demon King reminded. Got it, big brother. The Koi King nodded and immediately walked towards the general's tomb with Mirror Demon King. As for Shui Weining, he could be arrogant and despotic in front of others. But in front of these two, he was very low-key. Although he was the second son of Dragon Mother, his strength was not high and his status was not high. This time he could only stand on the periphery and be in charge of guarding. There really is a formation. What should we do? After checking it, the Koi King frowned. Well, but with my attainments in formations, I'm afraid it will take at least a day to break this restriction. I'm afraid that a long delay will lead to trouble. Mirror Demon King also knew about formations, but his attainments were not as good as Ling Xiao's and definitely not comparable to a Yuan Venerate's. Respected rulers of all kingdoms, why don't you let me try? A voice suddenly came from the crowd. It was Ling Xiao. Who are you? Who allowed you to speak? Shui Weining bellowed when he saw Ling Xiao. Second brother, let him speak. Mirror Demon King said faintly. Shui Weining, who had originally been fierce, immediately lost his temper when he heard Mirror Demon King's words. Still not going to dodge? Ling Xiao glanced at Shui Weining and said coldly. Chapter 330. What did you say? Shui Weining was furious that Ling Xiao dared to speak to him like that. Enough. Now is not the time to argue. Get out of the way. Just as Shui Weining was about to deal with this guy who dared to walk without lowering his head in front of him, the Koi King spoke. Shui Weining trembled. The Koi King was his sister, but this woman was exactly like his mother. She had a bad temper and an extremely bad personality. He couldn't afford to offend her. Seeing Shui Weining step aside, Ling Xiao walked over and said to the Koi King and the Mirror Demon King, My two kings, I don't have any other skills, but I do have some knowledge of formations. I can guarantee that I can solve the problem in half an hour. Are you serious? The Mirror Demon King was surprised. He needed to spend a day to solve the problem. But this guy said that he could solve it in half an hour? He didn't believe it. If I can't solve it in half an hour, you two kings can take my head. You two aren't afraid that I'll run away, right? Ling Xiao smiled. Okay, then you go and try. The Koi King spoke first. However, Ling Xiao didn't move. What's wrong? The Koi King frowned. Koi King, I'm working for you. You should at least give me some reward, right? Ling Xiao said with a smile. As soon as he said that, the people around him broke out in a cold sweat. What kind of temper did the Koi King have? He actually dared to talk about reward with the Koi King. Not killing him after letting him work for free was already the greatest kindness. He's courting death. He's probably a guy who hasn't seen the world and doesn't understand the Koi King's personality. People talked to each other one after the other. The Koi King did as they said. With a light step, he appeared in front of Ling Xiao and grabbed Ling Xiao's arm. If you repeat what you just said, I'll immediately break your arm. Do you believe me? Of course I believe you, but I have a bad habit. If someone treats me well, I'll help. If someone forces me to do something, I'll do it. I would rather die than do it. Since the Koi King doesn't need me, just do it. Blame me for being blind. I didn't see that you were a short-sighted villain. Ling Xiao said calmly. The surrounding people were so nervous that they almost couldn't breathe. This fellow is truly a newborn calf that is not afraid of a tiger. I'm afraid no one can compare to him in terms of courting death. Koi, stop. Don't forget our mission. Just as the Koi King was about to attack, the Mirror Demon King stopped her and whispered in her ear, "Promise him first, and then kill him afterward. He is very important now." The Koi King frowned. Although he was very unwilling to do so, considering the treasures in the Frost General's tomb, he ultimately endured it. Of course, more importantly, she felt several powerful auras coming from afar. There was no need to ask to know that the people from Linglong Palace were here. How could Linglong Palace miss out on the treasures in the General's tomb? After you succeed, other than the memory medal, you can take any of the treasures inside. The Koi King looked at Ling Xiao. "That won't do," Yang Qi replied. "Empty promises mean nothing to me." Ling Xiao was as calm as ever. Although he was in a very dangerous situation, if he didn't take the risk, how could he possibly get the memory medal? In this world, there was no such thing as sitting on a fishing platform. If you wanted something good, you had to work hard to get it. I give you an inch and you want a mile. The Koi King growled. Whoosh! The people from Linglong Palace were getting closer. Fine. What do you want? Just say it. The Koi King finally relented. It's simple, Yang Qi said. You can give me any item on this list. The list Ling Xiao had given him contained all the materials he needed to cultivate the 9 sovereigns' sword incantation. As long as he could get one of the items, he would be satisfied. Here you go. I happen to have the demon core of a 9th stage, life-sizer Ice Crystal Snake King. Hurry up and get it done. The Koi King really lived up to his name. He really did have some good stuff on him. The demon core of a 9th stage, life-sizer Ice Crystal Snake King. Ling Xiao could either cultivate the revered Ice Sword Incantation or the Heaven-Venomous Black Snake Sword Incantation. As for which one to cultivate, he could always choose later. For now, the most important thing was to get closer to General Frigid Frost's tomb and carry out his plan. That guy isn't dead? He really did get some treasure. TCH, do you think the Koi King won't kill him? Yeah, I'll take that for a second. Everyone was starting to sympathize with Ling Xiao. After all, he had been used, and now he was about to be killed. How pitiful. Ling Xiao couldn't help but chuckle at what they were saying. After all, if he dared to stand out, then he definitely had the ability to escape. Life reversal, combined with the Earthspan Golden Light magic, was a heaven-defying divine ability. As long as he wanted to, he would definitely be able to escape. Ling Xiao walked over to General Frigid Frost's tomb, pretending to be unraveling the spell formation. But the truth was that he was searching for the memory medal. He had already unraveled the spell formation and only needed one last step. Therefore, the so-called half an hour was just enough time for him to search for the memory medal. That was the only thing he wanted the most. Big bro, do you think he can do it? The Koi King asked. No problem, the Mirror replied. His movements are very professional, and he really is unraveling the spell formation. It seems like he's going a lot faster than I expected. After all, the Mirror Devil King wasn't as skilled as Ling Xiao when it came to spell formations, so he couldn't really tell what was going on. All Ling Xiao had to do was come up with a few tricks to fool the Mirror Devil King. Good. Now we can focus on dealing with those sluts from the Dazzling Palace. In response, the Koi King's anger subsided, and he prepared to vent it on the Dazzling Palace martial artists. It was at this point that a few dozen beams of white light landed. In the lead of the group were 3 9th Division Life Seizers, followed by a group of 7th Division Life Seizers. Of course, the 3 9th Division Life Seizers from the Dazzling Palace were all very old. Most likely, they were elders from the Dazzling Palace. Compared to the young Koi King, they were very different. Whoosh! One of them, an old woman in white, had a ribbon in her hand that shot toward Ling Xiao, who was in the middle of unraveling the Frigid General's tomb. That was a common tactic used by the Dazzling Palace martial artists. The martial artists from the Dazzling Palace often used ribbons to attack. Not only were they strange, but they could also be soft or hard. It was almost impossible to defend against. What the hell are you attacking me for? Ling Xiao also sensed the other party's target. He didn't want to wait for death, so he turned around to dodge. However, the Mirror Devil King was already in front of him, blocking his path. Bam! A mirror appeared out of nowhere, reflecting the ribbon back at her. The old woman in white regained control of her ribbon, and then looked at the Mirror Devil King with a grim expression. Dragon Mother really did give birth to some good sons, she thought. Unfortunately, they're just wild children with no father to teach them. Seeing that her attack had failed, the old woman in white decided to take advantage of the situation with her words. By this point, the onlookers had already backed away. If they got in the middle of a fight between two powerful organizations, they could easily get hurt. Chapter 30, 331. Well, at least it's better than having no parents. The Koi King said coldly, "You 3 old fogies, the Dazzling Palace is really going all out. I can't believe you sent 3 9th Division life-seizing elders at once. Azure, Red, and White, the 3 old women. Aren't you worried you won't be able to leave?" The Koi King didn't seem the least bit intimidated by these 3 powerful elders. In fact, he seemed to be very strong. It was obvious how confident he was in himself, and how terrifyingly strong he was. As for Shui Weining, he didn't dare to say a word. The 3 old women were not to be trifled with. Not only were they all in the 9th Division of life-seizing, but when they joined forces, their fighting prowess was at the peak of the 9th Division. They were very adept at teamwork. When ordinary martial artists of the same realm encountered the 3 of them, they would immediately turn around and leave. "Ha ha ha! You sharp-tongued little girl," said the Koi King coldly. "Let's cut the crap. The Dazzling Palace wants a piece of the frigid general's tomb. What do you say?" The green-robed old woman said coldly. She didn't say she wanted to take everything for herself, but rather she wanted a piece of the pie. Clearly, she feared the Koi King and the Mirror Devil King. She didn't want to get into a fight here, so it would be best if they could split the treasure evenly. Forget it. The Koi King said before the Mirror Devil King could say anything. "You 3 old fogies, take your people and get the hell out of here. If you don't, I'll make sure you regret it." This woman really had the same personality as Prince Tian, domineering and valiant. She didn't give a damn about the 3 old women at all. She didn't even want to talk, and just wanted them to get the hell out of here. In response to the Koi King's words, the white-robed old woman's face darkened. "Big Sister Qing, they're telling us to get the hell out of here. I can't believe you're thinking of negotiating with them. This little girl is just like that slut of a mother of hers. They're both arrogant and have their eyes on top of their heads. That's right, Big Sister Qing. Forget about talking. Let's just take it," the red-robed old woman said. "Are you 3 pieces of trash done talking? Do you really think you can overturn the heavens with a bunch of trash? Do you really think you can do whatever you want just because my mother isn't here?" The Koi King sneered. "Come on, I'll give you a chance. I want to see how capable you 3 old fogies are. Big brother, second brother, you guys take care of those minions. I'll deal with these 3 old women alone." Arrogant, arrogant. You're courting death. The 3 of them were completely infuriated by the Koi King's words. In the past, it didn't matter whether it was scolding them or using harsh words. But this time, it was an absolute humiliation to them, dealing with the 3 of them alone. Wasn't this little girl looking down on them too much? Why are you talking so much nonsense? If you want to prove that you're not trash, then just attack. The King of Koi seemed to be very intelligent and was not afraid of the 3 of them at all. Ling Xiao was multitasking. On one hand, he was searching for the memory medal. On the other hand, he was paying attention to the battle. A battle of this level was still of great reference value to him. From the looks of it, the Koi King did not seem to be boasting. He might really be able to take on 3 people at once. The thick smell of gunpowder permeated the air around the icy general's tomb. It seemed as though the 2 sides might attack at any moment. Inwardly, Ling Xiao was very pleased. Come on, let's fight. I'd like to see you all die together. Then you'll have nothing to do with this. Finally, the fighting broke out. The Mirror Devil King didn't make a move. Instead, she stared at Ling Xiao. She was very cautious. After all, Ling Xiao's true cultivation base was only in the 5th stage of life seizing. And yet, she wasn't about to let her guard down. None of the 4 kings of the Myriad Kingdoms were easy to deal with. As for Shui Weining, he was already leading the martial artists from the Myriad Kingdoms into battle with the martial artists from the palace of dazzling craftsmen. The Koi King and the 3 old men were even farther away. Are you sure you don't need my help, third sister? The Mirror Devil King asked. No need. These 3 pieces of trash are already half a foot in the grave. They're not a match for me. The Koi King was very arrogant. Most so-called geniuses were like that. You 2 hold back for a moment, the old woman said. We don't want word to get out that we're bullying a little girl. Turning to her 2 companions, she said, Keep an eye on the Mirror Devil King and that kid standing in front of General Frigid Ice's tomb. I bet he's trying to break the spell formation. If he succeeds, we'll go take it. The old woman was convinced that she had been stuck in the 9th stage of life seizing for many years now. The Koi King had only broken through 2 years ago and was still new to the life seizing craftsman. She could defeat the Koi King on her own. You're not a match for me, old hag. You're going to die. The Koi King laughed coldly. In that case, let's see what the number 1 genius of the Myriad Kingdoms can do to me. The old woman didn't dare to underestimate her opponent. The Koi King's title as one of the 4 kings of the Myriad Kingdoms wasn't just for show. Before long, the 2 of them were fighting. By this point, the old woman had already released her martial soul. His martial soul was a pagoda made of white jade. The martial discipline that the Dazzling Palace was most adept at was the Dazzling Jade God incantation, which complemented the white jade pagoda martial soul. Once unleashed, one's body would become as white as jade and possess incredible defensive power. Furthermore, it would be incredibly powerful. Old hag, your dazzling jade battle body is only at the peak of the general level, right? Let's see how strong your defenses are. The old woman's body glowed with a jade-like luster, and the white jade pagoda behind her. The onlookers were completely shaken. However, the Koi King didn't seem to care at all. You're so stubborn, you little doll. The old woman chuckled coldly, then transformed into a beam of white light that shot toward the Koi King. Up in the air, a green ribbon of true energy, wrapped in a jade-like luster, shot toward the Koi King's vitals. It was a move that seemed capable of ripping apart space itself. A 9th stage, life-seizing cultivation base, a peak general-level dazzling jade battle body, and a white jade pagoda martial soul. It was easy to imagine how terrifying this attack was. In any case, Ling Xiao was completely shaken. He had never seen an attack as powerful as this. Although he had fought Prince Tian earlier, Prince Tian had only been toying with him and hadn't used any martial arts techniques. If he had, he would have been dead. If that's all you've got, then you're not strong enough. The Koi King's arrogance was justified. In the face of the old woman's attack, she had no intention of dodging. She didn't even summon her martial soul. She simply punched out. If one looked closely, they would see that her fist was covered in a layer of water. Ocean folk's secret technique, water cannon. The name didn't sound like much, but the effect of the attack was terrifying. The water on the Koi King's fist transformed into a ball of water, which shot out like a cannonball. It hit the green ribbon right on the spot. Chapter 30, 332. Rumble. A terrifying boom rang out, and the ribbons went limp, but the water cannon continued on toward the old woman. The old woman hastily tried to defend herself. In the end, she was still hit and was sent flying back 10 meters before regaining her footing. This Koi King is really strong, Ling Xiao thought, shocked. Despite being in the same cultivation level, the Koi King had only used one move to send the old woman flying. That level of strength put her at the peak of the 9th level of life seizing. Let me help you, big sister Qing. Seeing that her companion was at a disadvantage, the old woman in white had no choice but to step in. I told you 3 to come together. How troublesome. The Koi King looked disdainfully at the old woman in white. I can handle 3 old pieces of trash. Bullshit. Are you all right, big sister Qing? The old woman in white asked. I'm fine, the Koi King said. You attack the left and I'll attack the right. Don't hold back. I refuse to believe that we can't kill this girl. Although the old woman in azure had been sent flying, she was still strong and was only slightly injured. She could still fight. The 2 of them attacked the Koi King from the left and right. The 2 ribbons glowed with jade-white light, making them look like 2 flood dragons as they shot toward the Koi King. What a waste of time. Secret skill of the sea folk, tidal wave. Facing the pincer attack of the green-clothed old woman and the white-clothed old woman, the Koi King suddenly let out a delicate cry. On the frozen ground, a huge wave surged out. Not only did it block the attack of the 2 ribbons, but it also blocked the attack of the 2 ribbons. It even sent the old woman in white and the old woman in azure flying. I don't even need to use my martial soul to deal with you 2 pieces of trash. The Koi King looked arrogantly at the 2 old women. Get the hell out of here. You don't belong here. The 4 sects of the League of Vengeance combined are a match for the myriad kingdoms. The dazzling palace alone won't do. Big sister Qing, let's work together. I refuse to believe that we can't kill this girl. The old woman in white said, looking at the old woman in red. All right. The old woman in red finally joined the battle as well. Why didn't you do this from the start? You think you're strong just because you're older? What a joke. Your era has long since ended. The next era belongs to us, the young ones. Facing the 3 of them, the Koi King finally became serious. Suddenly, a huge wave appeared behind her, and a huge carp jumped out from the wave. It was the Koi King's martial soul, the carp martial soul. A carp can leap over the dragon gate. After the carp martial spirit evolved, it became the flood dragon martial spirit. It had terrifying combat strength and was omnipotent. He wondered if the Koi King's martial soul had evolved. Cautiously looking at the Koi King, the white-clothed old woman suddenly said, Sister Qing, Sister Hong, there's no need to hide anything. The treasures in the Frost General's tomb must not fall into Wangua's hands. Even if it's destroyed, we can't let them take it away. You mean to use that thing? The old woman in green frowned. That's right. That thing can increase our strength by 10 times. Although it was uncontrollable, it might cause unnecessary destruction. However, if the people of Tado Land were to take away the treasures in the Frost General's tomb, the consequences would be unimaginable. The old woman in white said coldly, All right, we'll listen to you. The old woman in green nodded, then opened her mouth and spat out a bead. The bead was black and purple in color. It was flickering with a strange light, and it was constantly releasing soul power. It felt like it was some kind of incredible magic treasure. Runes could be clearly seen on the surface of the black-purple bead, which was full of restrictions. It contained a terrifying energy. Ling Xiao, who was searching for memory metals, was instantly attracted by the black and purple bead. because he felt that his bloodthirsty demon sword seemed to be resonating with this bead. Soul bead. How did the Soul Hall's treasure end up in your hands? The Koi King was experienced and knowledgeable, so he was naturally more familiar with the treasure than Ling Xiao. He could tell at a glance that it was the soul bead. At least you know your stuff. This soul bead is indeed the Soul Hall's treasure. However, before the Soul Hall's new master, Darkfrost, appeared, there was a period of weakness. That's when this thing ended up in our hands. You should know that this soul bead can greatly increase a martial artist's soul power, causing the martial artist's various abilities to be greatly strengthened. Even if the three of us join forces, we still won't be your match. However, as long as you use this soul bead, you won't have any hope. The old woman in white sneered. Oh no, it's actually a soul bead. Shui Weining, who was fighting, had a change in expression. He clearly knew how powerful this thing was. Third sister, why don't we retreat first and avoid this? He shouted at the Koi King. Shut up. The Koi King coldly looked at Shui Weining and said, so what if it's a soul bead? It's just a high-quality Emperor artifact. What are you panicking for? Little girl, don't try to be brave. Just get out of here, quickly. We don't want to use this thing either, because once the soul bead is used, its destructive power will be so great that even we can't control it. It's very likely that we'll be implicated. The old woman in green sneered. Shui Weining's expression didn't look good. There was fear and unwillingness. After all, he was scolded by his sister in front of so many people. It was still quite embarrassing. The Mirror Devil King still had an indifferent expression, as if she didn't care about anything. This time he was only responsible for protecting the Koi King. Therefore, whether to retreat or not still depended on the Koi King's decision. You guys can try. The Koi King looked at the soul bead with disdain and said, although a treasure is an offensive weapon, it also depends on who is using it. This soul bead has the greatest effect in the hands of a Soul Hall martial artist. If it's used by you guys, you won't even be able to use 30% of its power. What am I afraid of? This Koi King is truly powerful. It's best if we can become friends. If we can't, then we'll definitely be a terrifying enemy. Ling Xiao sighed inwardly. Just as he was thinking, the Western Region God Toon diagram, martial soul, in his body suddenly became restless. The diagram that represented the Soul Elder Ling Tian sword art floated up and actually pointed at the soul bead. You mean that the soul bead can be used to cultivate the Soul Elder Ling Tian sword art? The diagram swayed up and down like a person nodding. So it's like this. If that's the case, then I must obtain this soul bead. Ling Xiao thought inwardly. Currently, he had successfully cultivated the supreme flame, blazing sky, sword art. Then he obtained the Ice Crystal Snake King's monster core from the Koi King. It could be used to cultivate the supreme ice freezing sky sword art or the black snake venomous sky sword art. As long as he obtained the soul bead, he could cultivate the Soul Elder Ling Tian sword art. Every sword art had a special attribute that could be used against different enemies. Of course, the most important thing was that when the 3 sword arts were used at the same time, the power wouldn't be simply 3 times, but 15 times. That was too terrifying. This was the reason why Ling Xiao had to learn all of the 9 supreme sword techniques. Chapter 33. The 9 Sovereigns' sword incantation could continue to grow in power and could even surpass the limits of an elementary king class martial skill. Ordinary king class martial skills couldn't possibly compare to the 9 Sovereigns' sword incantation. Therefore, Ling Xiao had to learn all of them. Of course, getting the soul pearls wasn't going to be an easy task. After all, they were in the hands of 3 ninth stage life seizers. Compared to the memory metal in General Frost's tomb, they were even more difficult to acquire. It seemed he would have to wait for the right opportunity. He was confident that hard work would pay off. As long as he was prepared, he would eventually have the opportunity to do so. Right now, his biggest problem was that he was too weak. Of course, if it weren't for that, he wouldn't have gone so far as to fight for these treasures. The only reason he was doing this was because he wanted to get stronger. Got it? Ling Xiao thought, a smile playing at the corners of his mouth. At long last, he had learned everything he needed to know about General Frost's tomb. The memory medal lay quietly next to General Frost's corpse. It was only about the size of his hand, but it contained the quintessence of General Frost's lifetime of cultivation. It was a priceless treasure. The question was when to take it. Taking advantage of his ability to multitask, he kept an eye on the situation, and at the same time, came up with a plan to escape. I have to get King Mirror Devil involved in this fight. Otherwise, my chances of success are too low. Ling Xiao was lost in thought. Meanwhile, the situation on the other side of the battlefield was changing. Thanks to the power of the soul pearls, the old woman in green, the old woman in white, and the old woman in red were finally able to suppress King Koi. King Koi was being pushed back again and again, and was no longer as calm as before. "You're at the end of your rope, King Koi," the old woman said. "Are you going to keep fighting? Take advantage of the fact that we haven't used the full power of the soul pearls. You'd best get the hell out of here. If you don't, we'll never be able to get anything from General Frost's tomb." The old woman in green continued to attack as she spoke. The only reason she was saying such things was because she knew how difficult it would be to deal with the King Koi. Even with the soul pearls and the fact that they were suppressing King Koi, they still wouldn't be able to defeat him anytime soon. Such a stalemate would only weaken both sides. Furthermore, the Mirror Demon King had yet to make a move. This was too disadvantageous for them. "Third sister, do you want me to help?" The Mirror Demon King finally spoke again. He knew that his sister had a headstrong personality. Even if he was at a disadvantage, he would not ask for help. It was the same today. No need. Blood seeped out of the corner of the Koi King's mouth, but his face was filled with excitement. The soul pearl is indeed a good treasure. However, the stronger the enemy, the more excited I am. It had been a long time since he had fought so happily. How long can you three old trash last? Using a soul pearl is a huge burden on the body. This woman's personality was too similar to Ling Xiao's. They were both battle maniacs. The stronger the enemy, the more excited she would be. He was facing off against 3 9th Division Life Seizers, all of whom were using soul pearls that could increase his power tenfold. She was still fearless. "Good. Since you want to die, we'll help you. Little White, Little Red, there's no need to show any mercy. Now that we're in the primeval god necropolis, we're mortal enemies. We'll kill one of the 4 kings of the Myriad Kingdoms and deal a huge blow to the Myriad Kingdom's Dragon Mother. Opportunities like this don't come around often. Normally speaking, the 4 great powers wouldn't fight to the death. After all, back in the Western Domain, they had been very peaceful, at least on the surface. But things were different in the primeval god necropolis. This was a place where only one of them could survive. If you didn't kill them, they would kill you. Someone had to die, and it was better for them to die than to die themselves. As of this moment, Qing Hongbai and the other 2 were ready to shed all pretense of cordiality with the Myriad Kingdom's Dragon Mother. A terrifying amount of energy was poured into the soul orb and then released from the soul orb. An enormous white jade pagoda appeared in front of the 3 of them, growing larger and larger. The eyes of Qing Hongbai and the other 2 shone with cruel killing intent. Then they unleashed attacks. Soul Pearl, white jade pagoda, kill, rumble. With a loud bang, the white jade pagoda absorbed enough energy and finally flew toward the Koi King. The white jade pagoda that the 3 of them used together was already extremely powerful. Now, with the support of the Soul Pearl, its power increased by 10 times. When the huge pagoda appeared in the sky, many people revealed looks of horror. Ling Xiao could also feel the destructive power released by the pagoda, which could destroy everything in its path. That kind of power was enough to shatter his entire body. However, in the face of this terrifying power, the Koi King laughed wildly. Carp leaping through the dragon gate, martial soul evolution. Her voice exploded in the void. A flood dragon flew up from the lake and then circled behind the Koi King. At that moment, the Koi King's strength continued to rise. Her aura also continued to rise. Sea Clan's secret skill, Dragon Tide. As her voice sounded, she pushed her hands forward. A flood dragon was naturally formed and merged with the martial soul. Then it pounced on the huge pagoda. Rumble! The flood dragon and the pagoda collided in the void. After a moment of stalemate, the pagoda was smashed to pieces. Then, the flood dragon swung its tail and flung the soul pearl away. At that moment, the three of them looked extremely unsightly. The three of them teaming up to bully a little girl was already very shameless. In the end, they even used the soul pearl in an attempt to kill the Koi King. But not only did they not succeed, the Koi King even destroyed the white jade pagoda that the three of them had condensed. Even the soul orb was sent flying. No one knew where it ended up. No one noticed that a pitch-black shadow had split off from Ling Xiao's body and stealthily appeared where the soul pearl had fallen and picked it up. At this moment, besides Ling Xiao, everyone else was shocked by the Koi King's strength. Even the Mirror Demon King was shocked. I didn't expect Third Sister to have grown to such a level. It seems that as her big brother, I'm really not as good as her. Only Fourth Brother can suppress her. The Mirror Demon King shook his head and sighed, ignoring Ling Xiao who was there. She's too strong. The Koi King is a genius among geniuses, a monster among monsters. I'm afraid she's even more talented than Dragon Mother. If she gets the Frost General's treasure, then wouldn't there be another Dragon Mother? Yeah, she fought 3 people alone and won so easily. The Koi King deserves to be the best among the young people. Not necessarily. I heard that the Dragon Shark King is even stronger than her. I don't know if the Dragon Shark King is strong or not, but the Koi King is really scary. The Linglong Palace is doomed today. Not only will they not get the treasures of the Frost General's tomb, they will also lose their lives here. Shocked voices came one after another, but no one noticed that Ling Xiao's original body had been replaced by the Golden Phoenix avatar. Chapter 33-34. Ling Xiao had already used his Golden Phoenix incarnation to replace his true body. His true body would then enter the Frost General's tomb to retrieve the memory medal. This was the most critical moment, and he was most afraid of being disturbed. But it was fine. The battle was reaching its climax. Only 10 minutes had passed since the spell formation was broken. To Ling Xiao, the outside conditions were good. Qing Hongbai and Qing Hongbai were terrified by the Koi King's terrifying power. The 3 of them had used their soul pearls, but still couldn't take down the Koi King. Instead, they were being beaten back again and again. You 3 old pieces of trash. Today is the day you die. The Koi King said with a cruel smile. Once a battle broke out in the primeval god tomb, it would be a fight to the death. A terrifying water dragon leaped out from the snowy ground and spiraled upwards. There were actually dozens of them. Each one of them contained terrifying power and was capable of injuring Qing Hongbai and Qing Hongbai. Each of the water dragons had the power of an 8th stage life-sizer. They were far stronger than Ling Xiao. Although Qing Hongbai and Qing Hongbai could block one of the water dragons, how could they defend against dozens of them? It was an extremely dangerous situation for them. By now, the other members of the Dazzling Palace were being slaughtered by Shui Weiying and Devil King Mirror. The outcome was certain. The Dazzling Palace was going to suffer a crushing defeat. However, after this battle, the Dazzling Palace and the Myriad Kingdoms would be mortal enemies. Previously, they had pretended to be cordial. After this battle, Even the harmony on the surface would no longer exist. In the future, when the myriad kingdoms and the dazzling palace met, it would be a bloody battle. Of course, there was one thing that could mitigate that possibility. "Koi King," Qing Hongbai said loudly, "we submit. I never thought you would be so strong. The Frost General's tomb belongs to the myriad kingdoms. The dazzling palace will not interfere. We just hope you can let us go. Otherwise, if we fight to the death, you won't be able to get anything out of it." She was the oldest of the three, and also the calmest. At this point, if they continued to fight, the dazzling palace would probably all die. Of course, Totto Land must pay a heavy price. However, she didn't want that kind of life and death situation. "Third sister, why don't we stop here?" Mirror Demon King still didn't want to completely fall out with Linglong Palace. After all, after entering the Archean Divine Tomb, the four forces still maintained a basic tacit understanding. He only killed the loose cultivators and did not touch the people of the four major powers. Of course, it was still possible to make a move in a place where no one knew. But after all, everyone maintained a bottom line. Once they shed all pretense of cordiality today, their Totto land would most likely suffer the crazy retaliation of the Avenging Alliance. Mirror Demon King had considered this, and that was why she had asked Koi King to stop. But with the Koi King's personality, how could he stop? What a joke. When you wanted to kill me, just now, you didn't think about the tacit understanding between the four great forces. Now he was actually using such a ridiculous reason. Don't even think about it. If I don't kill you today, how can I dispel the hatred in my heart? The Koi King's words shut the Mirror Demon King up. Mirror Demon King didn't want to bring it up again. Although they were all part of the four kings of 10,000 kingdoms, there were still differences between the four kings. Koi King's position was first, and his strength was slightly weaker than Dragon Shark King. As for Demon Eye King and Mirror Demon King, they could only be inferior to the first two. While speaking, Koi King's water dragon had already hit the old woman in cyan, shattering her clothes and causing blood to flow. At the same time, the other two old women's situation was not good either. Being attacked by the water dragon, they were already stretched thin. If they were not careful, they would be hit. The situation was very bad. "Sister Qing, this little girl wants to kill us. No need to be polite with her. Even if we die here today, we must not let her take advantage of us." The old woman in white had the most violent temper. Now that things had progressed to this point, they had no way to retreat. Since that was the case, there was naturally no need to hold back. "I also agree," the old woman in red also said angrily. The old woman in cyan looked at Koi King and said, "I'll give you one last chance. Don't provoke us. You should know that although you can suppress us now, once we go crazy, not to mention the subordinates of your Totto land, even the Ice General's tomb will be destroyed." Koi King didn't say a word and continued to attack madly. "Fine. In that case, little white, little red, let's go all out." The elders of the dazzling palace weren't to be trifled with. The three of them combined their power and unleashed it with all their might, without the slightest bit of pressure. Terrifying power released countless ribbons that shot out in all directions. The layer of ice was broken. The water dragon was destroyed. Trees were toppled. Then, regardless of whether they were friend or foe, the ribbons pierced through their bodies, causing miserable shrieks to ring out. The 6th and 7th stage life-seizers of the myriad kingdoms and the dazzling palace were completely useless. In the face of such a powerful expert, they were nothing more than pitiful fodder. The scene was a complete mess, and the rogue cultivators who had been watching fled. However, there were still some who were caught up in the chaos and died unjustly. "Big bro, don't let them destroy the Ice General's tomb." The Koi King did not even bother to look at the myriad kingdom martial artists who had been killed. Instead, he was more concerned about the tomb. The Mirror Devil King nodded, and an enormous mirror appeared in front of him, completely protecting the tomb. All the attacks that came into contact with the mirror were deflected away. "You 3 old things are dead for sure." Seeing that the tomb was unharmed, Koi King let out a furious roar. In the face of the combined attacks of the 3 elders, he unleashed all of his power. Dozens of water dragons surged out crazily. Not only did they knock away Qing Hongbai and the other 2's attacks, but they also slammed into the 3's bodies. Even though the 3 of them had already used their full strength, they were only able to lightly injure the Koi King. Blood trickled down the corner of Koi King's mouth, but it was clear that he wasn't in serious condition. However, under the terrifying attack of the water dragons, Qing Hongbai and the other 2 elders were already lying on the ground, heavily injured. Who would have thought that the 3 of us together couldn't even beat Koi King? It seems the Alliance of Vengeance has no choice but to work together. If we split up, we'll die. None of us are a match for the Myriad Kingdoms and the Hall of Souls. The old woman in green used the last of her true energy to support the white jade pagoda, protecting the 3 of them. However, the water dragons continued to attack, and the pagoda was already on the verge of collapse. It was only a matter of time before it was destroyed. I've never seen Koi King fight before, so I thought she was just one of the top experts of the younger generation. But now, it seems that not even the old ones are a match for her. She's just too strong. She's definitely on the same level as the 4 top grandmasters of the Alliance of Vengeance. Chapter 30, 335. Off in the distance, the rogue cultivators, now certain that they were safe, stopped fleeing and looked on in terror. They were completely in awe and fear of the Koi King of Tado Land. Even as everyone was marveling at how powerful the Koi King was, Ling Xiao reached out and grabbed the memory metal. As soon as the frigid general's memory metal touched him, he felt an intense surge of power wash over him. In that instant, Ling Xiao felt that the energy in his sea of cultivation had increased to 100%. He was only a step away from breaking through, and that was just a simple touch. As the memories of the martial disciplines within the metal flowed into Ling Xiao's mind, he began to meditate. Ling Xiao sat down cross-legged. From the very beginning of his cultivation, the martial foundation level, all the way to the 5th division of life seizing, he had gone through all of it again. This wasn't something Ling Xiao could decide, but rather the power of the memory metal. Ling Xiao had always had his master to guide him. Unfortunately, his master couldn't replace him in his cultivation. Therefore, it was inevitable that he would run into problems. Of course, he had never been aware of them. Thanks to the tempering of the memory metal, his cultivation from the martial foundation level to the 5th division of life seizing was nearing perfection. Although he wouldn't dare to say that he wasn't flawed, he was definitely doing much better than before. Many of the flaws that he had been unaware of were now being corrected by the memory metal. Many of the mistakes Ling Xiao had made in the past were now being corrected. In short, although they had wasted some time this time, the harvest was definitely huge. When he opened his eyes through the golden phoenix incarnation, he saw the white jade pagoda that was about to shatter. Imperial Prince Tian and the Koi King really are compatible, he thought. Both of them are terrifyingly strong. The elders from the dazzling palace wouldn't be of any help. Unless the Empress herself were here, they wouldn't be a match for the Koi King. Of course, Ling Xiao was even less of a match for him. Therefore, he didn't want to alarm anyone. Instead, he prepared to take the memory metal and leave. He didn't have much time left, and had no idea how much time had passed. Just as he was about to leave, suddenly, Ling Xiao's breathing almost stopped. He was extremely nervous. Because Mirror Demon King felt that half an hour had passed, he went to Ling Xiao's gold phoenix to ask about the situation. The golden phoenix incarnation naturally could not answer. Mirror Demon King sensed that something was wrong. She reached out to touch the golden phoenix avatar. The moment they touched, Ling Xiao saw it. That was why Ling Xiao was so nervous. With the Mirror Demon King's power, as long as he touched the Golden Phoenix, he would be able to sense that something was wrong. It's too late. We can only run. Thinking of this, Ling Xiao no longer hesitated. He instantly transformed into a shadow rabbit beast soul and used the special skill of Shadow Dancer. Using the evading sword light steps, he rushed outside. Golden Phoenix incarnation, explode! He had to create an opening for himself to escape. Shadow Dancer might not be able to fool the Mirror Demon King, so Ling Xiao did not want to take the risk. The moment he was about to leave the Frost General's tomb, he detonated the Golden Phoenix avatar. Boom! There was a loud explosion, and Mirror Demon King was caught off guard. She was sent flying. Although she was not seriously injured, she was in a very bad situation. This huge roar attracted everyone's gazes over, including the Koi King, who was still fighting. The Koi King saw that the white jade pagoda was about to shatter. Then he would be able to kill the 3 useless people hiding inside. But the Frost General's tomb was obviously more important than the 3 useless people's lives. The explosion over there immediately attracted her attention. "What's wrong, brother?" the Koi King asked hurriedly. He did not understand what was going on. "We've been fooled. We've been fooled by that kid." Mirror Demon King roared angrily as he rushed towards the Frost General's tomb, hoping to rescue the treasure inside. His speed was extremely fast. In an instant, he was near the Frost General's tomb. When the Koi King heard this, he ignored the 3 elders of Linglong Palace and rushed towards the Frost General's tomb as well. If the treasure was destroyed, he would really go crazy. The treasure is destroyed. No, the memory metal is not. Mirror light, nowhere to hide. The Mirror Demon King roared, sending out beams of white light that illuminated the area around him. Ling Xiao had already used the Shadow Dancer skill and the sword light steps to get hundreds of meters away. But now that he was covered by the light, he was completely exposed. "Holy shit," Ling Xiao said, looking back to find everyone staring at him. It was a very awkward situation. "Bastard, how dare you steal the treasure of the myriad kingdoms? Are you looking to die?" The Mirror Demon King was furious. They had only been paying attention to the Linglong Palace. But never could they have guessed that a measly 5th Division life-sizer would dare to try to steal the Frost General's tomb. How shameless! Since when did the primeval god tomb belong to the myriad kingdoms? Treasures belong to those who are capable. As Ling Xiao spoke, he was still running wildly. He had no intention of slowing down all. Considering how strong he was, he couldn't even beat Shui Weining, let alone the Koi King and the Mirror Demon King. The only thing he could do now was run. Stupid myriad kingdoms. So what if you beat us? In the end, a piece of trash in the 5th Division, life-seizing level took advantage of you. If word of this got out, you'd lose all face. Laughter rang out as the Azure Patriarchs and White Patriarchs took advantage of the situation to flee. They had been humiliated, and since they couldn't get back at Yang Qi through strength, they could only resort to verbal abuse. Besides, the Koi King didn't have time to deal with them. After all, the memory metal was the most important thing. "I'll deal with you later, you 3 old pieces of trash." The Koi King continued to chase after Ling Xiao, vowing to tear Ling Xiao to shreds. Although Ling Xiao had used a shape-shifting technique to change his appearance, the Koi King still couldn't recognize him. The Koi King had guessed who he was. "You must be Emperor Ling Xiao from the 8 Immortals' Kingdom, boy. I heard you escaped from the Imperial Prince. Today, I'd like to see if you can escape from me, the Koi King." The Koi King was both furious and shocked. She couldn't believe that someone would dare to play games like this right in front of her. Amidst the furious roars, dozens of water dragons pounced towards Ling Xiao at the same time, wanting to blast Ling Xiao into pieces. None of the water dragons were a match for Ling Xiao. That said, Ling Xiao wasn't planning on fighting them head-on. Farewell, Koi King. Divine ability, Earthwarp Golden Light Magic. Ling Xiao knew that he couldn't escape the Koi King's pursuit with ordinary movement techniques. Therefore, he calmly chose to use the Earth Elemental Golden Light Technique, a divine escape technique. In the blink of an eye, Ling Xiao was nowhere to be seen. As for the Koi King's water dragons, having lost their target, they exploded, sending snow and water flying everywhere. However, Ling Xiao was nowhere to be seen. Chapter 33-36. The Koi King's attack landed, but there was no trace of Ling Xiao. At this moment, not only were the people of Wangwa stunned, the rogue cultivators who were watching were also stunned. The 3 elders of Ling Long Palace, who had fled far away but were reluctant to leave immediately, were also stunned. They thought that the kid would not be able to escape the Koi King's attack, but they did not expect that the kid would disappear into thin air, along with the treasures of the Frost General's tomb. He completely disappeared in front of everyone's eyes. Even the 3 elders of Ling Long Palace could not escape the water dragon attack of the Koi King. Yet, that nameless junior managed to slip away. Damn it, big brother. Chase that kid with me. The Koi King was not confused. She knew that Ling Xiao should have some skills that could hide his body. With that kind of ability, if the opponent did not attack, she could not do anything. But as long as her big brother followed, there would be no problem. As for the 3 old good-for-nothings of Ling Long Palace, she did not care. Anyway, they could not pose a threat to her. It was not too late to kill them next time. Only this Ling Xiao she could not forgive. The Koi King and the Mirror Demon King were extremely fast. Their cultivation was much higher than Ling Xiao's. Even if it was an ordinary movement technique, it was enough to catch up with the vertical golden light technique. Of course, it was just catching up. It would be difficult to surpass it. However, the vertical golden light technique consumed a lot of energy. With Ling Xiao's current cultivation, it was a miracle that he could escape 100 miles away. If he could not get rid of the pursuers within this 100 miles, he would be in trouble. The Koi King and the Mirror Demon King chased after Ling Xiao. The area around the Frost General's tomb was in chaos, including Shui Weining. That guy was still in a daze. The Emperor of the 8 Immortals Kingdom? Where did he come from? Don't you know? The young warrior who destroyed the Sword Dynasty and occupied that world is said to be only 16 years old. He dares to call himself an emperor at 16 years old? Is he looking for death? Haha, not only is he an emperor, but he is still alive. I suspect that he is the one who killed the executioner in Ice City. How dare he kill the executioner? He fought with the emperor, and now he snatched the treasures of the Frost General's tomb from the hands of the experts of the 10,000 kingdoms. He should have died without a complete corpse, but he was still alive and well. I really admire this guy. Respect my ass. The Koi King and the Mirror Demon King are working together to chase after him. That brat is doomed. That might not be the case. If the Koi King and the Mirror Demon King can't catch up to the kid, then he will be famous. And... Aside from the heated discussion, the 3 elders, Qing, Hongbai, and Bai, saw that the Mirror Demon King and the Koi King had left. He wanted to find his soul orb. Big sister Qing, it can't be wrong. It must have been that brat who stole it. *CK, isn't that bastard too daring? Ow. The white-robed old woman said angrily, if he really is that Ling Xiao from the White Tiger continent, then his enmity with us won't be resolved in a short time. The old woman sighed. Whatever. Let's go back and heal. It's better to let the kid get those 2 things than to let the 10,000 kingdoms get them. You're right. Even if the kid is talented, he can't rise to prominence in a short time. We still have a chance to get those things back. The white-robed old woman nodded, and the 3 of them flew back toward the dazzling palace. They didn't make a move against Shui Weining, because they were seriously injured and might not be a match for him. Of course, Shui Weiniang didn't dare to pursue them. He didn't want to throw his life away unless he was completely confident that he could defeat his opponent. By this point, Ling Xiao was already several kilometers away. Thanks to the earth-span golden light, he had not only avoided the water dragon strike of the Koi King, but also seized the opportunity to flee. As long as his opponent couldn't outrun him, he would never be able to catch up. At this moment, he was feeling rather refreshed. The memory metal, the soul pearl, and the 9th-level life-seizing demon core from the ice crystal snake net. He had acquired all 3 treasures at the same time. Not only would he be able to achieve a breakthrough in his cultivation base, but he would also be able to cultivate the revered ice sword art and the revered heaven sword art. It would definitely be a huge boost to his strength. Yes, it was a little dangerous, but if you got what you wanted, then it was a success. The memory metal from the revered ice general would definitely increase his cultivation base by 10-fold. As for the other 2 items, he would definitely be able to cultivate his royal-class martial skills. Of course, he wouldn't be unhappy, but right now he couldn't afford to relax. His soul power was telling him that 2 powerful forces were chasing after him. Haha, since I can't escape, I'll play with you. Along the way, Ling Xiao had been trying to come up with a plan to escape, but no matter how much he thought about it, he couldn't come up with a good idea. Now that he wasn't prepared to flee, he had an idea. In the blink of an eye, he was 50 kilometers away. Ling Xiao was the first to arrive. After making some preparations, he stood there, waiting for the Koi King and the Mirror Devil King to arrive. It was about a minute's worth of difference. The Koi King and the Mirror Devil King arrived at the same time. Seeing Ling Xiao standing there with a half-smile on his face, the Mirror Devil King immediately sensed that something was wrong. She immediately stopped. The Koi King wasn't afraid of anything. When he saw Ling Xiao, he pounced on Ling Xiao, not giving him any chance to breathe. He didn't even give him a chance to speak. Boom! With a terrifying boom, Ling Xiao's body was blown to smithereens. Then he reappeared on the other side. However, this time, it wasn't just one soaring sky that appeared. Instead, there were 2, 3, and finally there were 10 identical soaring skies. Ling Xiao had returned to his original appearance. He was still looking at the 2 powerhouses with a half-smile. Are you in such a hurry to kill me? Idiot! Ling Xiao's voice came from the mouths of the 10 powerhouses at the same time. Third sister, be careful. We've fallen into this guy's illusion array. When it came to spell formations, the Mirror Devil King was far more skilled than the Koi King. What illusion array? Don't tell me it's stronger than your mirror martial soul. Eldest brother. The Koi King said angrily. It's no use, the Mirror Devil King said. That brat has the power of the soul pearl. It's over. There's no way we can catch up to him. The Mirror Devil King sighed. No, I don't believe he left. The Koi King said angrily. Ling Xiao, if you've got what it takes, get the hell out here. Stop hiding. What kind of hero are you? Are you an idiot? Yang Qi said. I'd be an idiot to face 2 9th Division Life Seizers. Ling Xiao's voice still came out from the mouths of the 10 people at the same time. I, Ling Xiao, am not a hero. I'm just a guy who's working hard to get out of here alive. It's that simple. Chapter 33-37. Ling Xiao said coldly, Whoever doesn't want me to live, I won't let them have it easy. Get lost, although the 2 of you are strong, as long as I don't come out. Don't even think about killing me. I'll give you a chance if you don't get lost after 10 counts. I will definitely kill the martial artists of Wangua. Are you threatening me? The Koi King frowned. Yes, your brain is not too stupid. Ling Xiao's voice was very arrogant. How dare you? First you vowed to destroy Prince Tian, and now you're arrogant enough to attack the martial artists of Wangua. You really think you're something. The Koi King was extremely annoyed. 10. Ling Xiao ignored the Koi King's words and just counted. 6. No need to count, I'll kill you now. The Koi King would never be threatened. She was not even afraid of the 3 elders of Ling Long Palace. How could she be afraid of a mere Ling Xiao? In anger, a terrifying aura was released from her body. Then a water column drilled out from the ground, almost shattering the ground within a radius of hundreds of meters. However, in the next moment, a strange phenomenon appeared. Those water columns actually attacked the Koi King's direction, as if controlled by some terrifying force. What's going on? The Koi King was shocked. She hurriedly dodged. Third sister, don't be afraid, that's an illusion. A mirror hung above the Mirror Demon King's head, seemingly able to see through the illusion. Idiot! Ling Xiao, who was in the dark, could not help but snicker. Since he already knew the Mirror Demon King's ability, how could he not be prepared? There was truth in the fake, and there was falsehood in the real. The first few times the water dragon hit the Koi King, it was indeed an illusion, but in the middle it directly blasted the Koi King dozens of feet away. Although with the Koi King's strength, it was naturally impossible for her to be injured too seriously. However, the feeling of being hit by one's own attack was still very unpleasant. The Koi King almost went berserk on the spot. She randomly released attacks, but the more attacks she released, the more damage she suffered. Instead, it became her own attack. Third sister, don't mess around. If you act recklessly before figuring out the formation, you'll only get hurt. Ling Xiao, that brat, is hiding somewhere and laughing. The Mirror Demon King stopped the Koi King's violent actions. Ling Xiao, just you wait. No matter where you run to, I'll find you, skin you alive, and make you into meat soup. The Koi King was furious to the extreme. It wasn't just that he had lost the treasure. More importantly, it had been taken by a piece of trash in the 5th division of life seizing. This kind of humiliation was simply unacceptable to her. All right, third sister, there's no point in being angry. Since we've already lost the item in the Icy General's tomb, we'll take it. I'll reorganize my emotions and see if I can get my hands on the treasures of the Ice Emperor's mausoleum. In comparison, the Imperial Mausoleum is much better than the General's. Mirror Demon King didn't know how to comfort her sister. His sister, the Koi King, had never encountered such a situation since she was born. She had never been so humiliated. In the past, it had always been others who had been taken advantage of. But this time, it was his sister who had been taken advantage of. Presumably, his sister was feeling very bad right now. Regardless of how depressed the Koi King and the Mirror Demon King were, Ling Xiao had long since slipped away. The illusory formation was just a way for him to buy time. If the Koi King had been calm enough, with the help of the Mirror Demon King, he would have been able to break it in 20 minutes. Unfortunately, the Koi King was too arrogant. He was so arrogant that he didn't care about anything else. Instead, he was wasting time and giving Ling Xiao a chance to escape. Ling Xiao arrived at a relatively safe location, where he looked around to make sure no one had been there. Although there were demonlings in the area, as long as he didn't provoke them, they shouldn't be a problem. He set up a spell formation in a secluded valley, then hid inside and began to cultivate. Of course, it was impossible to find a completely safe place outside of the city. But Ling Xiao was an expert at setting up spell formations. With them, many things would be much easier. He wasn't worried about the Koi King and the Mirror Demon King looking for him. After releasing the barrier martial spirit, he wouldn't release a trace of his aura. Unless the Total Land sent everyone to conduct a carpet search, it would be impossible to find him. Besides, there were many powerful demonlings in the vicinity. A large-scale search would inevitably alarm those terrifying demonlings. When the time came to fight, the Total Land would definitely suffer. So under normal circumstances, the other party wouldn't be so stupid. Even if he really did that, he would be able to find out early and then escape. Anyway, there was no absolutely safe place in the immemorial Divine Tomb. It was enough to cultivate here. Before cultivating the 9 Sovereign Sword Art, Ling Xiao still planned to improve his realm first. His current cultivation C energy had skyrocketed to 100%. He only needed an opportunity to break through. And these were the benefits brought to him by the Ice General's martial arts memory. Just touching it was so powerful. If he seriously comprehended it, he didn't know what would happen. His way of improving his cultivation was different from that of ordinary martial artists. He basically relied on fighting. But before fighting, he still had to let his consciousness reach that realm first. That was how cultivation worked. Consciousness came first, cultivation base came later. If one's consciousness couldn't reach a certain level, then one's cultivation base would never reach that level. Once one's consciousness reached a certain level, their cultivation base would follow. All they needed was power. Pulling out the memory metal, he began to study the Ice General's martial arts experience. This time, though, he was going to study the experiences of a 6-stage life-sizer. From what he could tell, the Ice General's cultivation base was on the same level as Dragon Mother and Dark Frost. In fact, she might even be stronger. How he broke through, how he cultivated, and what he encountered in the process were all recorded in the memory metal. Ling Xiao's perception was extremely high. Plus, the memory metal was easy to understand. In a mere 3 days, Ling Xiao's consciousness had reached the 6th stage of life seizing. When one's consciousness reached that level, one's vision was completely different. Perhaps that was why many experts, even after having their cultivation bases destroyed, were still able to see things clearly. One's cultivation base could be destroyed, but one's consciousness would remain at that level. Just because one's consciousness had reached a certain level didn't mean they had broken through. Ling Xiao could sense the latent potential within him stirring. I need to go find demonlings to practice with. There's no point in hanging around here. Having reached this point in his train of thought, Ling Xiao left the valley. As soon as he left the valley, he heard the sound of fighting off in the distance. As his cultivation base continued to rise, his 5 senses had grown stronger as well. Now he didn't even need to rely on his soul power to detect enemies. Following the sound of fighting, Ling Xiao stealthily made his way over. He didn't want to cause any trouble. He just wanted to see what was going on, and whether or not it would be of any use to him. Chapter 33:38. The forest was filled with people, and from time to time, cries of alarm could be heard, as well as the angry roars of demonlings. The roars were shocking to the core and sounded like thunder crashing down from the sky. Ling Xiao hovered in the air in his shadow warrior form. Although he could see the people around him, they couldn't see him. Up ahead, trees were toppled in all directions, and the ground was a mess. 5 rogue cultivators were attacking a ferocious demonling. The demonling was by no means small. It was about 4 or 5 meters tall and 7 or 8 meters long. It looked like a lion and was covered in pitch-black fur. Its razor-sharp fangs dripped with saliva, and its eyes shone with a savage light. Its terrifying claws could destroy an entire tree with a single swipe. A 7th Division life-sizer poisoned scorpion lion. Although it's not very strong, these rogue cultivators won't be able to handle it. Ling Xiao thought to himself. The most terrifying thing about poisoned scorpion lions was their deadly venom. Once poisoned, it could paralyze the victim's nerves, making it impossible for them to unleash their full power. Of course, cultivators with strong poison resistance were an exception. Ling Xiao's jaw dropped as he realized that one of the 5 was Fan Tuan. Tuan had mentioned that he knew people in Blighttown, and these were probably the people he was referring to. They were all in the 6th Division of life seizing, which was why they only dared to attack demonlings under that level. They had encountered the poison scorpion lion by accident. After some discussion, the 5 of them decided that they had the advantage in numbers, and thus decided to give it a try. Unfortunately, they found themselves in a difficult situation. However, the 5 of them worked very well together, much better than lay Old Wolf's team. From the looks of it, they didn't just meet on the spot. Most likely, they had known each other before coming to the primeval god necropolis. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been able to work so well together. Of the 5, 2 of them wielded bows and arrows, which they shot at the poison scorpion lion from a distance. One of them was clearly a spirit folk cultivator who specialized in secret magic attacks. His secret magic not only weakened the poison scorpion lion's fighting prowess, but also improved the fighting prowess of his allies. In fact, he was the biggest threat to the poison scorpion lion. Of course, these 3 weren't the main fighting force. The main combat power was still Fan Tuan and another person. Tuan was obviously a meat shield. This guy's defense was very strong. When he used the steel saber, he was simply a huge hedgehog. Whenever the poison scorpion lion tried to attack the others, he would immediately stop it. Even though he was much smaller than the poison scorpion lion, he was no weaker than the poison scorpion lion in terms of strength. Fan Tuan has also grown. After the battle with Old Wolf Lei, although his cultivation base did not break through, his combat prowess has clearly soared. Ling Xiao smiled, feeling rather gratified. After all, Fan Tuan was a friend that he acknowledged. The better Fan Tuan did, the more comfortable he felt. Of course, Fan Tuan was not the core of this team. At the center was a young man in a white battle robe. He looked to be around 20 years old and held a long spear in his hand. Every time the spear stabbed into the manticore, Yang Qi could sense that his cultivation base was on the verge of breaking through to the 7th division of life seizing. Although it looks like it's going to be a tough battle, the demonic beasts won't be able to hold on for long after being besieged by them. Ling Xiao wanted to help, but he gave up when he saw this. Just as he was about to leave, Fan Tuan and the white-robed young man unleashed their final, deadly attacks. The poison scorpion lion slumped to the ground, never to move again. Old bro Fan, you're so strong. Without you as a meat shield, we wouldn't have been able to deal with this guy. The young spirit folk warrior was a young woman. Seeing that the poison scorpion lion had been killed, she ran over excitedly. And big bro, Zhao, your spear skills are godly. You're almost in the 7th division of life seizing, aren't you? In response to the young woman's praise, Fan Tuan laughed heartily and said, Of course I can help. However, the white-robed young man seemed a bit arrogant. It's just a poison scorpion lion, he said coldly. I can handle it myself. As soon as the words left his mouth, strange expressions appeared on the faces of the other 4. None of them liked arrogant people like him, not to mention that he wasn't strong, and yet he was arrogant and self-righteous. Ha ha ha. Old bro Zhao, we all know how strong you are. You don't need to say anything more. Fan Tuan laughed heartily, clearly trying to ease the awkwardness of the situation. By this point, the 2 bow-wielding martial artists had already cut open the poisoned scorpion lion's body. So, there's a demonling core and even a life crystal. Both Fan Tuan and the white-robed young man looked over in shock. I can't believe there's a life crystal here, he said. I thought demonlings under the 7th division of life seizing only had a 10% chance of finding one. I can't believe our luck is this good. Fan Tuan said excitedly. That's right, the white-robed young woman said. If you used that life crystal to trade for mid-grade spirit stones, that thumb-sized piece would be worth 100,000 mid-grade spirit stones. Furthermore, life crystals can be used to heal injuries. I've heard that good life crystals can heal almost any injury. We really struck it rich this time. There's 5 of us, so each of us can get 20,000 mid-grade spirit stones. And that's not even counting the demonling core. Humph. Life crystals are nothing. Did you know that the reason demonlings can form life crystals in their bodies is because they eat 9 reincarnation soul grass? I've already investigated. There are 2 more poisoned scorpion lions in their cave. One of them is a mutant. Although it's still in the 7th division of life seizing, it's still much stronger than an ordinary 7th division life sizer. But if we can get that 9 reincarnation soul grass, we can trade it for 10 million mid-grade spirit stones. That means each of us can get 2 million mid-grade spirit stones. We can live in Bingqing for the rest of our lives. The white-robed young man said disdainfully. You make it sound nice, the white-robed young man said. Considering how strong the 5 of us are, it would be very difficult for us to defeat an ordinary poison scorpion lion. We don't even know how powerful that mutant poison scorpion lion is. If we fought it, we'd probably be wiped out. The reason we came here is to be able to cultivate peacefully in the city. The cultivation speed here is many times faster than on the outside. I don't want to take any risks. One of the bow-wielding young men said. So what do we do? Ask for help? But who's going to help us? Besides, even if they do, what if someone else tries to take the 9 reincarnations soul grass for themselves? The young woman couldn't help but ask. The way I see it, we shouldn't take any risks. We only have one life, and we can't afford to lose it. Fan Tuan had experienced the struggle between life and death, and knew exactly how precious life was. In this world, there was nothing more important than life and death. Big bro Fan, why don't you let me help? All of a sudden, a voice rang out. The white-robed young man immediately tensed up. Gripping his spear tightly, he turned to look in the direction of the voice. Old bro Ling Xiao. Fan Tuan said, overjoyed. Don't worry, old bro Xiao. This is a good friend of mine. Chapter 30, 339. Good brother? You've been eavesdropping on our conversation, haven't you? The white-robed young man said warily, not letting go of his spear at all. You're making a lot of noise, Bai Xiaochun said. I just follow the sound. That doesn't count as eavesdropping. What's more, you're talking in broad daylight. You're not hiding anything from others. So what if I hear you? Ling Xiao looked at the white-robed young man coolly. If it weren't for Fan Tuan, he wouldn't have been so polite. As far as he was concerned, a 6th division life sizer wasn't a threat at all. Humph. Even so, your cultivation base is only in the 5th division of life seizing. You're nothing more than a burden. Do you really think you can help us? The white-robed young man snorted disdainfully. That's right. I'm in the 5th division of life seizing, but I'm definitely stronger than you. Ling Xiao smiled broadly. Of course. That smile was filled with provocation. He wasn't that good-natured. This young man had provoked him over and over again. So how could he not respond? You think you're stronger than me? The white-robed young man asked. Try me and you'll find out. Ling Xiao curled his finger at the white-robed young man. All right. The white-robed young man said, thrusting his spear forward. Obviously, Yang Qi wasn't going to show any mercy. His spear was filled with the power of the peak of the 6th division of life seizing. Oh, you want to kill me? Ling Zhao's eyes flickered with cold light. Show some mercy, my boy. Fan Tuan said, Don't worry, I won't kill him. I'll just teach him a lesson. The white-robed young man said loudly. He assumed that Fan Tuan was asking him to show mercy, but he had no idea that Fan Tuan was actually talking to Ling Xiao. However, the white-robed young man's words saved his life. If he really wanted to kill Ling Xiao, then even if Fan Tuan begged for mercy, Ling Xiao wouldn't show him any mercy. But now, Ling Xiao didn't even draw his sword. Instead, he unleashed a fist strike. The fist and the spear collided. The white-robed young man's jaw dropped, and a look of astonishment appeared on his face. Then he was sent flying backward, spear in tow. He fell heavily to the ground. How could this be? The white-robed youth's face was deathly pale. He had never thought of comparing himself with the top geniuses of the 4 major forces, but he believed that among the rogue cultivators, there were not many who were his match. However, Ling Xiao's appearance completely destroyed his confidence. Brother Xiao, I've said it before. Brother Ling Xiao is very strong. If he hadn't shown mercy just now, you would already be dead. Fan Tuan looked at the white-robed youth and said, There is always someone better than you. Although your strength is not bad, you're usually too arrogant and narrow-minded. Take that poison scorpion lion, for example. Brother Ling Xiao could have killed it all by himself. I don't believe it. The white-robed youth shook his head. What, you still want to fight? Ling Xiao sneered. Forget it, Yang Qi said. I'm not a match for you. But I refuse to believe that you can handle a 7th division life-sizer on your own. The white-robed young man had some self-awareness. He waved his hand and said, Believe it or not, we'll find out soon enough. What do you say? Is there any problem with me joining? Ling Xiao asked with a smile. Of course there's no problem. Fan Tuan was the first to agree. The young spirit folk woman nodded. The 2 bow-wielding martial artists did the same. The white-robed youth didn't object, which meant that he agreed. All right, Yang Qi said. Since you've all agreed, let's talk about how to split the spoils. That was exactly what Ling Xiao wanted to talk about. Don't tell me you want to take the 9 reincarnations soul grass for yourself. The white-robed youth said with a frown. That's right. I want the 9 reincarnations soul grass. Ling Xiao said coolly. What? Other than Fan Tuan. The faces of the other youths turned very unsightly. You don't want to. Ling Xiao said with a smile. I'm doing this for you. If I don't take you with me, you won't get anything. If it weren't for Brother Fan, I could have killed those 2 poisoned scorpion lions myself. At that time, you won't be able to get anything. Now, I only want the 9 reincarnations, soul grass. As for the life crystals and monster cores, you can take them. You're not willing to do this? Can you really kill a poisoned scorpion lion alone? The young spirit folk woman asked. Let's be frank. Leave that mutated poison scorpion lion to me. You can deal with the other one. After this, I only want the 9 reincarnations soul grass. Everything else is yours. Ling Xiao said. All right, if that's the case, I agree. The young spirit folk woman said after some thought. We have no objections. The 2 bow-wielding martial artists weighed the pros and cons. If Ling Xiao really had the ability to kill a mutated poisoned scorpion lion alone, this request wasn't too much at all. Of course, I have no objections. Fan Tuan's life had been saved by Ling Xiao, so even if Ling Xiao didn't give him anything, he would still help. However, the white-robed young man's expression was very grim. I refuse to agree to something like this, the white-robed young man said. Refuse? Do you know where we are? This is the primeval god necropolis. The only reason I'm wasting my breath talking to you is because of Fan Tuan. If it weren't for that, I wouldn't even be wasting my breath on you. I'd just kill you. Screw off. Ling Xiao said coldly. Don't ever let me see you again, or I'll kill you. The white-robed young man's expression flickered. Then he hefted his spear and left. How could you be friends with someone like that? Yang Qi asked. Not only is he arrogant, but he's also stupid. Ling Xiao didn't quite understand. He's stronger than us, so we rely on him. Fan Tuan smiled bitterly. Whatever. Let's not talk about him. Let's go get the 9 reincarnations, soul grass. After that, I'll give the 4 of you a chance to reach the 7th division of life seizing. Of course, whether or not that happens will depend on your own good fortune. When the time comes, you don't have to worry about that idiot. Ling Xiao had heavenly tribulation pills, as well as life-seizing pills, which could help life-seizers break through. Of course, life-seizing pills could only be used up to 3 per reincarnation. Because of that, they were best used in the final 3 divisions of the life-seizing level. That was why Ling Xiao had never used them, nor had he given them to anyone else. Unfortunately, Fan Tuan and the others were too weak. For 6th Division Life Seizers had a very low chance of surviving, so it was better to let them get stronger as quickly as possible. That way, they would have a better chance of surviving. If that's really the case, then we'll give up everything. We'll do whatever you want us to do. The young spirit folk woman said excitedly. However, as soon as the words left her mouth, she blushed a bit, as though she were thinking of some strange idea. Deep in the forest, in a huge cave, were 2 venom scorpion lions. In the area where the venom scorpion lions were crouching was a beautiful plant. Over there was the 9 reincarnations soul grass. One of the venom scorpion lions was larger and stronger, while the other was about the same size as the one Fan Tuan had killed. Big bro Fan, do you have a way to lure them out? We can't fight in the cave. If we do, we'll destroy the 9 reincarnations soul grass. Ling Xiao asked, looking at Fan Tuan. He was confident that Fan Tuan would have a way. Chapter 3340. Of course, the poison scorpion lion loves poisonous herbs. We've already prepared them before we came. Fan Tuan smiled and took out 2 stalks of poisonous herbs from his storage ring. He placed them at the entrance of the cave and quickly retreated. After a while, the 2 poison scorpion lions stood up and looked at the 9 turned fate soul grass in front of them, hesitating. But after about a minute, they finally couldn't take it anymore and pounced out. Fan Tuan had added a special ingredient to the poisonous herbs. The poison scorpion lion loved that smell. It was a pity that the poison couldn't poison the poison scorpion lion. Otherwise, this poisonous herb would be the key to killing the poison scorpion lion. I'll lure the mutated poison scorpion lion away. You 4 deal with the other one. Remember, it doesn't matter if you can't kill it. Just delay it. After speaking, Ling Xiao had already rushed out. He pointed his finger at the mutated poison scorpion lion. The mutated poison scorpion lion didn't seem to understand. How could such a small human dare to attack it? And it felt that the attack was quite painful. It was furious and swore to tear this small human into pieces. It charged towards Ling Xiao and roared crazily. On the other side, Fan Tuan had already lured the other poison scorpion lion away and coordinated with the other 3. Without the white-robed youth joining the battle, they probably wouldn't be able to kill the poison scorpion lion. But delaying it for a while shouldn't be a problem. The mutated poison scorpion lion's body was huge. Just its head alone was bigger than the other poison scorpion lion. Its red eyes emitted a cruel light. There was only murderous intent in its eyes. Ling Xiao laughed coldly and waved the Ice Supreme sword in his hand. He clashed with the mutated poison scorpion lion in the dense forest. Ling Xiao didn't use the bloodthirsty plague or the black poison of the Death Kingdom because he needed to break through. Every time he fought, the barrier to his cultivation would be loosened a little. The man and the beast were like 2 fierce beasts fighting, causing the entire mountain to shake. The rumbling sounds were endless. After about 10 minutes, Ling Xiao swallowed the Heaven's Tribulation pill. Thunder clouds gathered in the sky. The terrifying demonic lightning finally fell. Ling Xiao began to break through amidst the demonic lightning. The mutated poison scorpion lion was unable to withstand the bombardment of the demonic lightning. After a few lightning strikes, the poison scorpion lion was charred black. Meanwhile, Ling Xiao had achieved a breakthrough in his cultivation in the midst of the demonic lightning. 6th-stage life seizing. He had finally taken a step forward. This realm was the lowest realm among the warriors who had entered the Archean Divine Tomb. But Ling Xiao was only in the 6th division of life seizing, and yet he could fight all the way to the 8th division. This was very impressive. No ordinary martial artist under the 8th division of life seizing could possibly stand up to him. As long as he cultivated 3 of the 9 supremacy sword techniques, his power would be multiplied by 15 times, and he would become even more terrifying. After retrieving the demonic beast core and life crystal from the mutated poisoned scorpion lion's body, Ling Xiao went to the other side to help. The poisoned scorpion lion that had tormented Fan Tuan and the others was easily killed by Ling Xiao with a single finger. He died just like that. The young spirit folk asked, visibly shocked. I told you, Fan Tuan said. If Brother Ling was willing to help, then he'd be helping us. Too bad, brother. Zhao didn't listen. Fan Tuan sighed. He was always reluctant to give up on his teammates. Ling Xiao knew exactly what he was thinking. However, everyone had their own way of doing things, and Ling Xiao had already been very patient. Normally speaking, there was no way he would have let the white-robed young man get away in the Archean divine tomb. Who knew if the young man would try to call for reinforcements? After putting the demonic beast core and life crystal away, Ling Xiao went back to the cave to retrieve the 9 reincarnations' life soul grass. It was the key to helping Cold Plum awaken. Here are 4 life-seizing pills, he said. Use them. Ideally, use them when you're at the peak of the 6th division of life-seizing. That way, you'll have a 90% chance of achieving a breakthrough. Ling Xiao took all of the spoils, but he also kept his word. 4 life-seizing pills were definitely worth more than a single 9 reincarnations life soul grass. It was just that everyone was taking what they needed. It really is a life-seizing pill, and a perfect one at that. The young spirit folk woman trembled as she looked at the pill in her hand. After all, life-seizing pills were very difficult to come by. Furthermore, it was almost impossible to concoct a perfect life-seizing pill. They had assumed that they would suffer a loss, but instead, they had come away with a huge bargain. AI. Zhao missed his chance. He was just on the verge of a breakthrough. If he had this pill, he would definitely have reached the 7th division of life-seizing. One of the bow-wielding martial artists sighed. Who told him to be so arrogant? Young Hero Ling did this for our own good. How could he be so stupid as to think that someone would try to take advantage of him? Considering how strong young Hero Ling is, if he really wanted to take the 9 reincarnations life soul grass, none of us would be able to stop him. The young spirit folk woman didn't have a good impression of the white-robed young man. Someone's here, Ling Xiao said, gesturing for the others to stop talking. An honest man doesn't resort to underhanded means. Come on out, everyone. Fan Tuan shouted into the forest. Ha ha ha. You can wear out iron shoes in a fruitless search, only to find it by chance. Let's see where you're going to run this time, Ling Xiao. Laughter rang out as a group of people emerged from the forest. One of them was none other than the second son of the Myriad Kingdom's dragon mother, Shui Weining. As for the remaining dozen or so, they were all 6th or 7th division life-seizers from the Myriad Kingdom's alliance. The last one was none other than the white-robed young man, Shui Weining. Ling Xiao said, looking around at the group. Other than Shui Weining, none of them posed a threat to him. It's good that you recognize me. Hurry up and hand over the Frigid Ice General's memory medal and that soul pearl. Oh, right. You just got the 9 reincarnations life soul grass, right? Hand it over. I'll give you a quick death. Shui Weining knew that Ling Xiao wasn't easy to deal with, but he didn't think Ling Xiao was a match for him. From what the Koi King and the Mirror Devil King had said, it was obvious that the kid was very good at escaping. If he could capture Ling Xiao, or even kill him, then he would have a lot of face. Not even the Koi King or the Mirror Devil King had been able to do such a thing. How could he not have a lot of face? He was confident that his position in the Dragon Mother's heart would be even higher. That was why he hadn't notified the Koi King or the Mirror Devil King about Ling Xiao's appearance. He wanted to take all the credit for himself. Ling Xiao didn't even look at Shui Weining. Instead, he looked at the white-robed young man, his eyes flickering with viciousness. I spared your life, and this is how you repay me. Don't be afraid, kid. With me here, he can't do anything to you. Shui Weining looked at the white-robed young man. That's right, Ling Xiao. You bullied the weak and tried to steal our 9 reincarnations, life soul grass. I'll make sure you get nothing. The white-robed young man roared. Is that so? Well, I'll show you what it means to bully the weak. Time detonation. He had already interacted with the white-robed young man before. The time detonation could be triggered at any moment. All he needed to do was activate it. The white-robed young man finally felt fear the moment he was blasted into pieces. He was filled with regret, but it was too late. Chapter 30, 341. The fact that I didn't kill you in the primeval god necropolis was a huge favor. But instead of repaying me, you betrayed me. Doesn't it feel good to be ripped to shreds? Ling Xiao looked coldly at the corpse of the white-robed young man. Then he looked over at Shui Weining. You didn't tell the Koi King about what happened here, did you? You think you're qualified to do that? I could kill you myself. Shui Weining said disdainfully. That's good, Yang Qi said. If she came, it would have been troublesome. Unleash your martial soul. In an instant, Ling Xiao released the barrier martial spirit, blocking Fan Tuan and the others outside, and trapped Shui Weining and the Wangua martial artists inside. Old bro Fan, why don't you find a place to work on your cultivation? But what about you? Fan Tuan asked hesitantly. Don't you know me? You're nothing but a measly Shui Weining, an 8th division life-sizer. You can't kill me. Ling Xiao chuckled. It felt good to be cared for. Of course, he wasn't joking. Considering his strength and the awakened Xiao gene, killing Shui Weining wouldn't be a problem at all. All right, take care, old pal. With that, Fan Tuan turned and left, heading back to Bingqing with the others. As long as Ling Xiao could kill the people from the myriad kingdoms, they wouldn't be in any danger. All right, it's time for you to die. Seeing that Fan Tuan and the others were gone, Ling Xiao transformed into his unbounded heavenly rat. Without holding anything back, he unleashed the full power of his martial soul, causing the black poison of the kingdom of death to spread out. 6th and 7th Division life-seizers who encountered the deathly kingdom black poison in a sealed space would instantly die. Those who were slightly stronger were lucky enough to survive, but were killed by Ling Xiao from a distance. In the blink of an eye, the only people left inside the martial soul were Ling Xiao and Shui Weining. How could this kid be so terrifying? He thought. It's a good thing my cultivation base is high enough to block the poison. Unfortunately, it consumed 10% of my energy. If this continues, it won't be good. Shui Weining was very shocked. He thought that Ling Xiao was only good at escaping. He never thought that this kid's combat strength would be so terrifying. Bloodthirsty plague. Just as Shui Weining was shocked, something even more terrifying attacked. The blood-red plague, mixed with the black poison of the Death Kingdom, entered Shui Weining's body through the wound. At that moment, Shui Weining felt as if his body was about to be dismembered. Endless pain. He had no choice but to release another 10% of his inner energy to suppress the bloodthirsty rat plague. However, he was unable to suppress it. The bloodthirsty rat plague was too terrifying, even more so than the black poison of the Death Kingdom. Shui Weining, it's over. Supreme flames, blazing sky sword. Ling Xiao wouldn't give Shui Weining a chance to escape or counterattack. This time, he attacked with all his might right from the start. He wanted to kill Shui Weining in the shortest time possible. Blazing flames burned within the barrier martial spirit. Shui Weining looked at the glaring light in horror. He had no choice but to use his most powerful escape technique. Water escape. His body turned into water and blended into the ice and snow. Even so, the terrifying sword technique hit the ground and caused Shui Weining to spit out blood. He only cared about escaping and didn't think about blocking Ling Xiao's attack. This gave Ling Xiao the best chance to attack. If he counterattacked, perhaps he wouldn't be in such a miserable state. This guy looked very fierce on the surface, but in reality he was as timid as a mouse. It was truly shocking. Puff! Shui Weining was directly smashed out of the ice and snow by Ling Xiao. His body had already returned to its original state. Since you won't let me escape, I won't let you live either. Shui Weining used his last escape technique, but didn't succeed. He could only fight with his back against the wall. However, at that moment, a bright golden light shot out from the darkness. The golden light was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, it was already in front of him. What is that? Before he could understand what happened, the golden light had already pierced through his throat. 9 underworld yellow spring golden light. Xiao Jin's body appeared beside Shui Weining's body. It had been a while since he woke up, but because nothing happened, he didn't come out of the beast ring. Now, in order to be sure that he could kill Shui Weining, Ling Xiao used Xiao Jin. The 9 underworld yellow spring golden light hit him. Shui Weining, who was already heavily injured by Ling Xiao's Fire Supreme blazing sword technique, couldn't block this attack at all. Boss, it's done. Seeing Shui Weining's body turn into ashes, Xiao Jin took Shui Weining's storage ring and sent it to Ling Xiao. Well done. Without your help, it wouldn't have been easy to kill this guy. Ling Xiao knew very well that Shui Weining's dying attack was very terrifying. After taking Shui Weining's storage ring, Ling Xiao opened it easily. Suddenly, a light flew out from the storage ring. It formed a figure in the air. It was Dragon Mother. Who dares to kill my son? Dragon Mother's voice echoed through the air. Crap, Xiao Jin said. We were too careless. If Dragon Mother finds out that we killed Shui Weining, she'll definitely kill us. Xiao Jin knew that the image was an afterimage left behind by Dragon Mother's will. It could transmit what happened here to Dragon Mother's spirit realm. What's there to be scared of? Yang Qi said, My relationship with the myriad kingdoms is already like fire and water. I took the memory metal from General Frigid Frost's tomb, so there's no way they'll let me off the hook. Ling Xiao had been a bit worried at first, but when he thought about it, he realized it wasn't that big of a deal. There was only one Dragon Mother, and the primeval god necropolis was huge. It wouldn't be easy to find her. You're in luck, Xiao Jin, Yang Qi said. This guy has 3 first cycle, life-seizing cores in his ring of holding. Take them and get stronger. The stronger you get, the more you'll be able to help me when the time comes. Reaching into Shui Weining's ring of holding, Ling Xiao produced 3 8th-stage life-seizing demonling cores and handed them to Little Gold. Xiao Jin swallowed one of the cores, then put the other 2 away. You're right, Yang Qi said. I'm not strong enough in the primeval god necropolis. Xiao Jin was currently in the 6th division of the life-seizing level, the same level as Ling Xiao. Truth be told, he wasn't strong enough to be of much help to Ling Xiao. But now that he had a demon core from an 8th division life-sizer, he would be able to reach the 8th division at the very least. Of course, that would be of even greater help to Ling Xiao. Xiao Jin returned to the spirit beast ring. As for Ling Xiao, he left the scene of the battle and returned to his valley of cultivation. He gave the 9 reincarnation soul grass to Cold Plum. Its medicinal properties were miraculous. In less than half an hour after taking it, Lang Mei had already recovered, but her body was still very weak. Ling Xiao left Cold Plum in the mountain and river world to recover. There weren't many people who were qualified to enter the mountain and river world, and Cold Plum was one of them. What Ling Xiao couldn't have guessed was that inside the mountain and river world, Cold Plum and the butterfly girl were slowly becoming one. Chapter 30, 342. The butterfly lady had helped Ling Xiao get through countless difficult times, but he never knew where she came from. As for Cold Plum, she was a slave he had saved, and he didn't know where she came from. However, he had noticed that Lung Mei and the butterfly lady were quite similar to each other to a certain extent. Back then, Ling Xiao didn't think much of it and thought it was just a coincidence. But this time, by chance, Cold Plum and the butterfly lady met in the mountain river world. Then they formed a special connection. It was more like two parts of a person finally came into contact and fused. However, Ling Xiao hadn't noticed the process yet. Ling Xiao was now focused on cultivating the 9 sovereigns, sword incantation. Now that he had made a breakthrough, it would be easier to cultivate the 9 sovereigns, sword incantation. Ling Xiao eventually chose to cultivate Revered Ice's Cold Sky, sword incantation, and Revered Soul's Spirit Heaven sword incantation. Revered Ice's Cold Sky sword incantation and Revered Fire's Blazing Sky sword incantation were the exact opposite of each other. As for Revered Soul's Spirit Heaven sword incantation, it dealt more damage to the soul than physical damage. It was definitely a powerful weapon. If used well, it could turn the tide of a battle. He took out the Soul Pearl and the 9th level life-seizing Ice Crystal, Snake, Demon Core. They floated in front of him. Behind him, the map of the Western Domain's divine tombs appeared. A sparkling ice sword and a spiritual sword that was almost completely invisible appeared at the same time. Then, Ling Xiao used the 9 sovereigns, sword incantation. The Soul Pearl and Ice Crystal Snake Demon Core's energy flowed into the 2 invisible swords. The 2 swords were naturally formed from energy and weren't real swords. Only by fusing the Soul Orb and the Ice Crystal Snake's Demon Core would they be able to produce powerful explosive and destructive power. The process of cultivation was extremely dry and tedious, and it was inevitable that one would have to endure unimaginable pain. For a moment, Ling Xiao felt like his soul realm was about to explode. It was a fate worse than death. For a moment, Ling Xiao felt like he had fallen into an endless ice cellar, and his entire body was filled with coldness. It was a fate worse than death. Cultivation was not something that could be accomplished overnight. Pain was often accompanied by pain. Some people managed to pull through and succeed. On the other hand, cowards would be scared off by the pain and their cultivation would stagnate. Ling Xiao was also in great pain, but his willpower was incomparably firm. After experiencing countless painful torments, he had long since adapted to this kind of pain. Persevere. He gritted his teeth and persevered. 1 day, 2 days, more than 10 days later, the soul orb and demonic beast cores in front of him had completely disappeared. The 2 swords behind him were filled with terrifying power. Success! Ling Xiao opened his eyes and revealed a knowing smile. After the pain, being able to succeed was naturally an extreme joy for him. Many people either gave up or were tortured to death in this kind of pain. Those who could make it through were all heroes and heroes. Supreme Flame Sword paired with Supreme Flame, Blazing Sky Sword Art. Supreme Ice Sword paired with Supreme Ice Sword Art. Bloodthirsty Demon Sword, also known as a Soul Paragon, sword paired with Supreme Heaven Sword Art. Ling Xiao had studied the Bloodthirsty Demon Sword for a bit, and now understood what it was. It was a Soul Paragon sword and could be fused with countless souls. It was a high-quality Imperial item. As for the Dugu Hegemon sword, it was simply a modified version of a Soul Paragon sword. It wasn't a complete modification. All it did was make the Soul Paragon sword even more bloodthirsty, and its killing intent even stronger. Any one of the moves would be as powerful as an elementary King-class martial skill. When 2 swords were used, their power would be 10 times greater. When 3 swords were used, their power would be 15 times greater. Furthermore, each attack had its own unique attribute and could be used to counter an enemy's attribute. The 9 Paragon sword art was a consummate sword technique that was tailor-made for Ling Xiao, and he couldn't be happier. With 3 sword incantations and a 6th division life-seizing cultivation base, Ling Xiao was confident he could kill someone like Shui Weining in a single blow. Unfortunately, using 3 swords at once drained Ling Xiao of nearly 99% of his true energy. He wouldn't use them unless he absolutely had to. Now that he could use a single sword incantation twice in a row, it was an improvement. After spending another 3 days, Ling Xiao consolidated the results of his cultivation. Only then did he walk out of his spirit formation, martial spirit. If he wanted to make further breakthroughs in his cultivation base and improve his martial skills, he would have to do battle. He couldn't just sit here and wait. 13 days had passed, and he had no idea what had happened in the outside world. Dispelling his martial soul, he stepped out of the spell formation he had set up. As he did, the air was filled with the stench of blood. How many people died here? Why is there such a strong stench of blood? Ling Xiao sniffed the air, then flew in the direction of the smell. The more intense the fighting, the more likely it was that there would be good stuff. Take General Frost's tomb, for example. Whenever it appeared, it would lead to crazy fighting. This time it was no exception. He flew about 5 kilometers in the direction of the stench of blood. By now, he was very far away from the City of Ice. It was a desolate place, and yet there were a large number of martial artists gathered here. There were many corpses on the ground, clearly those who had lost in the competition. Ling Xiao was a bit afraid of the Koi King and the Mirror Devil King, and even more so of Dragon Mother. However, if he wanted to give up on the treasure, he would have to be killed. He had come to the primeval god Necropolis to get a head start. If he saw the treasure and didn't dare to fight for it, he might not get another chance. In the primeval god Necropolis, the bold would die of hunger, and the cowards would starve to death. A huge cave of ice had appeared where the group of martial artists had gathered. A terrifying aura emanated from the cave, even more terrifying than the one in General Frost's tomb. Ling Xiao couldn't help but think of the 8 imperial mausoleums in the primeval god Necropolis, other than the imperial mausoleum of the ancient Sword Emperor. Only the 8 imperial mausoleums were superior to the general's tomb. I really did come at the right time, Ling Xiao thought, a smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. Then he walked over to the group of martial artists. Most of them were in the 6th or 7th division of life seizing. In the past, Ling Xiao would have been very worried about such a level of strength. But now, they weren't much of a threat to him. At the entrance to the cave of ice stood a stone statue. It held a long sword in its hand and stood there motionless. However, it emanated the aura of an 8th division life-sizer. No wonder these people don't dare to enter the cave of ice, Yang Qi thought. It seems they need to be at least in the 8th division of life-seizing to get in. With that, Ling Xiao walked into the crowd. What a bunch of trash, he thought. The last chance to get into the Ice Emperor's tomb is mine. Even as Ling Xiao walked toward the cave of ice, an enraged roar echoed out from off in the distance. Chapter 343. An extremely valiant-looking martial artist with a halberd in his hand flew over. Landing on the ground, he charged toward the statue. An 8th division life-sizer. He's going to get the chance. Not necessarily. 8th division life-seizers shouldn't necessarily be able to get into the Imperial Mausoleum. Yeah, someone else with a similar cultivation base just came in, but he's already a corpse. That guardian statue is terrifying. This one is probably stronger than the other one. AI. Who cares? Since ancient times, 9 nines have always been respected. Only 9 people can enter the Imperial Mausoleum. 8 people just went in, 9th Division Life Seizers and 8th Division Life Seizers. Of course. None of that has anything to do with us. Yeah, considering the level of our cultivation bases, we should be thanking the heavens and the earth if we even get the legacy of the General's mausoleum. As for the legacy of the Ice Emperor, Don't even think about it. The legacy of the Ice Emperor? How enviable. According to the rumors, the legacies of the Soul Emperor, Sea God Emperor, and Matriarch Linglong have all been taken. There are only 5 left. Every one that appears means there's one less. Apparently, Prince Tian already got the legacy of the Heaven Sword Emperor and is looking for the legacy of the Dragon Emperor. That means 6 of the 8 Imperial Mausoleums have already appeared. The only ones left are the legacies of the Flame Emperor and the 7 Stars Battle Emperor. I wonder if we'll get them one day. Stop dreaming. Considering your latent talent, I doubt you'll ever reach the 8th division of life seizing. And you want the legacy of the ancient emperor. You're just looking to get killed. As everyone discussed the situation, Ling Xiao was able to glean a lot of information. Apparently, his guess had been correct. This was most likely the Ice Emperor's mausoleum. Furthermore, each imperial mausoleum only allowed 9 people to enter. 8 people had already gone in, which meant there was only 1 spot left. Obviously, Ling Xiao was going to fight for that spot. Furthermore, there was no way he was going to pass up any opportunity to improve his strength. Whether or not the legacy of the ancient Sword Emperor was actually in the primeval god mausoleum was still a mystery. Although some people said it was, no one had ever found it. However, the 8 imperial mausoleums were real and would definitely be worth it. After making up his mind, Ling Xiao walked towards the stone statue. Right at this time, the martial artist who attacked the stone statue first was actually blasted out. He fell heavily to the ground. Laughter came from all around. But when this person glared at them, they all shut their mouths. After all, his poor little life was more important than offending an 8th division life-sizer. Who is that person? I don't know. His cultivation base doesn't seem very impressive. His aura is probably in the 6th division of life-seizing. He's even weaker than us. What is he trying to do? Everyone was stunned when they saw Ling Xiao walking towards the guardian statue. For a 6th division life-sizer to attack one of the stone guardians was suicide. No one tried to stop Ling Xiao. Everyone treated Ling Xiao as a joke, a clown. Young man, do your best. Don't admit defeat. Young man, use all your strength. Maybe you can topple that stone statue. Ha! He really went over. I bet he went crazy while cultivating. Maybe he's lost his mind. Amidst the mocking laughter of the crowd, Ling Xiao still walked in front of the guardian stone statue. Then he looked at it. He wanted to see if he could defeat the stone statue with brute force. If he did, he would probably have to use the 9 sovereigns' sword incantation, which would be very draining. This stone statue was obviously some sort of puppet. However, this type of puppet was incredibly clever and actually used the spirit energy of heaven and earth as its power source. As long as it wasn't damaged, it would never run out of power. Of course, puppets were puppets, and when it came to fighting, they were on a completely different level from martial artists. Ling Xiao opened his Taiji eye and began to look for weaknesses. It was at this point that the 8th division life-sizer with a halberd stabbed toward Yang Qi from behind. Screw off, boy. Don't waste my time. Do you really think a piece of trash like you can defeat this stone statue? Ling Xiao's brows furrowed slightly as he shifted his body about a foot away. The halberd was aimed at the stone statue. The moment the halberd touched the stone statue raised its sword and knocked the halberd aside. It was a simple and direct move, and yet it was very effective. Compared to the flashy but impractical moves, it was truly admirable. The 8th division life-sizer said, his jaw dropping. Not even a 7th division life-sizer would be able to dodge his attack. How could a 6th division life-sizer do that? Did he still want his face? Haha, an expert really is an expert. I can't believe he actually went easy on him. The onlookers didn't think that Ling Xiao had actually dodged the 8th division life-sizer's attack. In fact, they assumed that the 8th division life-sizer didn't want to kill Ling Xiao and intentionally missed. An 8th Division life-sizer can kill a 6th Division life-sizer like a toy. I hope that kid knows what's good for him. Don't just stand there and wait to die. Aha! If he wants to die, why shouldn't you be happy? The more people here in the primeval god necropolis die, the better. The more people who die, the better our chances of getting some good stuff. Everyone was laughing as they looked over at Ling Xiao and the halberd-wielding warrior, waiting for a good show to happen. 8th Division life-seizers need to transform, Yang Qi thought. Sighing, Ling Xiao transformed into his Frost WYRM Beast Soul transformation. Although both of his opponents were 8th Division life-seizers, Shui Weining was much stronger than this brute. Therefore, when fighting Shui Weining, Ling Xiao had needed to transform into his most powerful beast soul, the unbounded heavenly rat. But now that wasn't necessary. Ordinary beast soul transformations were more than enough. Ordinary beast soul transformations could push Ling Xiao's battle prowess to the 7th Division life-sizer level. Combined with the 9 Sovereigns sword incantation, he could definitely kill an 8th Division life-sizer with battle prowess. After transforming, Ling Xiao looked even more ferocious than before. The frigid energy in the area began to swirl around him. The Ice Blast WRM was originally the ruler of ice, and the Ice Supreme Sword in Ling Xiao's hand became the core of all the ice elements. What Ling Xiao didn't know was that his beast soul transformation had already become a symbol of sorts. That was especially true of the Frost WYRM beast soul transformation, which he had used extensively in the glacier region. Many people had already memorized it. In fact, there was even a detailed description of it on the bounty lists of all the nations. When he transformed, the expressions on the faces of the martial artists weren't one of shock or fear, but of delight. That's Ling Xiao, right? There's no mistaking it. He offended the Heavenly Prince, injured him, and then escaped unscathed. Not long ago, he stole the treasure from General Frigid Frost's tomb right in front of the Koi King. Who would have thought that he'd show up now? There's something else you guys don't know. I heard that General Shui Weining from the Myriad Kingdoms was killed. He even killed the executioner. Chapter 3344. That Ling Xiao didn't just do what he did. He even stole the dazzling palace's precious treasure, the Soul Pearl. Everyone chimed in one after another. Although they were all shocked by what Ling Xiao had done, they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, so they assumed that the rumors were exaggerated. That was why they weren't afraid of Ling Xiao. That was why they were so arrogant. Their eyes were filled with greed. High-quality imperial items, treasures from the Frost General's tomb, the Soul Pearl, and 9 reincarnations soul grass. And then there was the bounty on his head from the Myriad Kingdoms and the dazzling palace. Ling Xiao was like a walking treasure trove. In the blink of an eye, everyone's eyes shone with greed. Ignoring everything else, just the memory metal of the Frost General could increase a martial artist's cultivation speed by dozens of times. It was a heaven-defying item that could make a martial artist forget fear and be filled with greed. After all, other martial artists couldn't cultivate as quickly as Ling Xiao. Most martial artists would remain stuck in the same cultivation level for a year, years, decades, or even centuries. If they could get their hands on the Frost General's memory metal, they would be able to break through their stagnant cultivation bases. How could they possibly be worried about the danger? Even if they had to die, they would do anything to get the treasure. The way they looked at Ling Xiao was like a pack of hungry wolves looking at a delicious piece of meat. The discussions were so loud that many people who didn't know Ling Xiao had already recognized him by now. Many of the people who didn't know what Ling Xiao was doing now knew who he was. There were hundreds of martial artists present, and all of them had expressions of greed on their faces as they approached Ling Xiao. The halberd-wielding 8th Division life-sizer was just about to launch another attack, when he suddenly heard a commotion among the crowd. What's the matter? His entire body began to tremble. However, it wasn't out of fear, but excitement. They were excited beyond belief. His opponent was only in the 6th division of the life-sizer level, the weakest of the martial artists who had entered the primeval god necropolis. How could they possibly be afraid? Treasures belonged to the strong, while the weak had no right at all. Ling Xiao coldly looked at those people who were casting greedy gazes at him, and the corners of his mouth hooked up into a cold smile. He was not willing to be manipulated by the master of the God-Devil Order, so he would not take the initiative to kill. But if someone else wanted his life, sorry, he wasn't a fool. Whoever dared to touch him, he would destroy them. It was that simple. Not to mention that there were only a few hundred martial artists here, even if there were tens of thousands. What was there to be afraid of? It wasn't as if he had never encountered such a situation before. Although outside the Archean Divine Tomb, most people would not easily kill people. However, it was not uncommon for people to kill others to steal their treasures. Especially in desolate places, those who had treasures in their hands would still be hunted down. It was no different from the situation in the Archean Divine Tomb. The Archean Divine Tomb only completely removed the mental burden on the warriors, making them think that killing and seizing treasures here was normal. There was no need to feel burdened. Kid, with your strength, it's not enough to protect your treasures. Why don't you give them to me? I can let you live. By this point, the 8th Division Life-Sizer's goal had changed. He no longer wanted to kill Ling Xiao, but rather take Ling Xiao's treasures. You want to let me live? He said, I'm afraid you don't qualify to do that. Hundreds of martial artists surrounded him. Ling Xiao's eyes flickered with a vicious gleam. He instantly transformed into his unbounded, heavenly mouse beast soul form. In his most powerful form, he prepared to face the bitter fighting. At the same time, a map of the Western Domain God Tomb appeared behind him. A sparkling, translucent ice sword slowly flew out of the map and then hung there in midair. Ling Xiao waved the revered ice sword. The ice sword flew out and merged with the revered ice sword. Terrifying frigid energy began to spread out in front of the ice cave. Many of the martial artists who got within a few dozen meters of Ling Xiao were frozen solid. What's going on? Why do I feel like I'm going stiff? The person closest to Ling Xiao was none other than the 8th Division Life-Sizer. Just as he was about to launch an attack, an intense chill suddenly invaded his body. It was as if his body was about to be frozen, and it was difficult for him to move. The terrifying aura emanating from Ling Xiao didn't seem like the aura of a 6th Division Life-Sizer at all. In fact, it seemed more like the peak of an 8th Division Life-Sizer. Run. At the moment, the only thing on his mind was to run. After all, he wasn't confident in being able to defeat Ling Xiao. You think you can escape? Revered Ice Sword Art. A cold voice came out of Ling Xiao's mouth. The revered ice sword pierced through the air, hovering there in midair. It was as if the entire sky were covered by the sharp sword energy. Then, the revered ice sword slashed toward the 8th Division Life-Sizer. Cold chi and sword chi filled the air and flew about chaotically. Block it for me. The 8th Division Life-Sizer shouted, brandishing his halberd and drawing on all of his true energy to unleash his most powerful attack. He attempted to block Ling Xiao's sword. However, it was useless. In the glacier region, the revered ice sword art was much more powerful than before. Furthermore, Ling Xiao had made the first move. As soon as the terrifying revered ice sword made contact with the halberd shattered. As for the halberd-wielding 8th Division Life-Sizer, his halberd-wielding weapon shattered into countless chunks of ice. The destructive power of this move was far greater than that. Sword energy filled the air, and frigid energy filled the area. Of the dozens of martial artists near Cloud Sky, all of them were 7th or 6th Life-Seizers. In the blink of an eye, they vanished from the world. They were completely and utterly destroyed. Not even their souls were freed. It was a terrifying sight to behold. Many of the other martial artists stopped in their tracks. Unfortunately, the temptation of the treasure was too great. "Don't be afraid," someone shouted. "He can only use a move like that once. It'd be a waste to run away now." That shout filled the hearts of many of the martial artists with the desire to do battle. Once again he shouted and charged towards Ling Xiao. "Kill him and the treasure is ours. He's done for. Don't be afraid." It was almost as if they were trying to cheer themselves on. At the same time, it was almost as if they were trying to numb themselves. Ling Xiao's face was still covered with an indifferent smile. He didn't want to kill anyone, but if people tried to kill him, then he wouldn't show any mercy. Seeing the fearless martial artists charging toward him, Ling Xiao unleashed his martial soul. If they wanted to die, then there was no point in trying to escape. As long as he didn't die, there was no way he could break the barrier from the inside. 9 snakes, General Beast Soul. 9 snakes, Venom Domain. Deathly Kingdom, Black Venom. With the 8th Division Life-Sizer dead, there was no need to use the 9 Sovereigns sword art to deal with the 6th and 7th Division Life-Seizers. The 9 snakes, Venom Domain was unleashed. Black smoke filled the entire barrier. Chapter 30, 345. Ah, my hand. My eyes. I don't want to die. What a terrifying poison. 6th-stage Life-Seizers could only suffer one fate when faced with the kingdom of death black poison, and that was to be corroded and killed. There was no other possibility. "Spare us. We were just blinded by greed. I beg you, spare us." Miserable cries rang out one after another, and the greed in the eyes of the martial artists vanished. In its place was fear, incomparable fear. Only now did they realize that someone who could escape from the clutches of Prince Tian and the Koi King was a weakling. How could he possibly be weak? How could someone who could kill Shui Weining be weak? How could they have possibly been so foolish as to try to kill someone like that? That was suicide. Unfortunately for them, Ling Xiao had already begun his slaughter, and there was no way he would show any mercy. If he hadn't been so strong, he would have been the one to die a miserable death. He knew that better than anyone else. After entering the cycle of reincarnation, it wasn't as if he hadn't gained anything. At the very least, he had gained a lot of experience. If you wanted to kill someone, you couldn't show mercy. I gave you a chance. You just didn't know how to cherish it. Now you're begging for mercy? It's too late. Ling Xiao's cold voice rang out from within the black poison smoke. In the next moment, a raging fire suddenly ignited within the barrier. Beast soul of the undying bird flame. The terrifying flames continued to burn, and miserable screams rang out. And yet, Ling Xiao's expression was as cold as ice, and he showed no signs of stopping. They couldn't escape, they couldn't fight, and they couldn't even find a trace of Ling Xiao. The martial artists were in complete despair. They were filled with regret. They regretted that their greed had led them to provoke such a terrifying person. Unfortunately, there was no point in regretting it now. Less than 10 minutes later, the flames were extinguished, and Ling Xiao put away the black poison. Inside the barrier, there was not even a corpse. There was only a burnt smell. Ling Xiao withdrew his boundary martial spirit and coldly looked at the drifting ashes in the sky. He indifferently said, "If people don't offend me, I won't offend them. If people offend me, I will kill them." At that moment, his God-fiend order had already been upgraded to 2nd grade. He was only one step away from being promoted to rank 1. Although he didn't want to kill people, there were people who wanted to kill him. After killing so many people, the God-Devil order would naturally evolve. All I need to do is kill a few more 8th Division Life-Seizers, or maybe even a 9th Division Life-Sizer. Then I should be able to upgrade the God-Devil Medallion to the 1st Order. That's easy. Ling Xiao did not care about the evolution of the Fiend God token, as it was completely passive. He turned around and looked in the direction of the ice cave. The guardian stone statue had already shattered. He must have been hit by his Ice Supreme, Frost Sword Art. However, the shattered guardian statue was slowly healing. Perhaps in a minute or two, it would return to its original appearance. Of course, that had nothing to do with Ling Xiao. He walked around the stone statue and entered the ice cave. Without a doubt, this was an imperial mausoleum. It was so eerie and sinister that it gave off the feeling of being attacked by Yin energy. Using his soul power, Ling Xiao could sense strange creatures formed by the combination of Yin energy and frigid energy. He didn't want to waste time with them, so he chose to avoid them. Although he enjoyed fighting, he didn't want to engage in pointless fighting. Not only would it be a waste of time, it would also consume a lot of true energy. After walking for a bit, he came across 9 tomb doors. Each door was a teleportation portal. They led to a minor world. Ling Xiao had seen this many times before. Most likely, every imperial mausoleum was like this. Which door should I choose? Ling Xiao looked at the 9 doors, but they didn't seem to be any different. Not wasting any more time, he pushed open one of the doors and stepped inside. In that instant, Ling Xiao felt as if he had entered a spatial tunnel. A moment later, his vision cleared up. He was in a special dimension. In front of him stood an enormous monster. The monster was sparkling and translucent, clearly formed from frigid ice. Its fighting prowess was similar to that of the statue at the entrance of the ice cave, but there was something strange about it. Behind the monster was a door that led to the main tomb chamber. If he wanted to go through, he would have to defeat the monster. That wasn't a problem. What Ling Xiao was worried about was the other 8 martial artists who had entered the ice cave. It went without saying that if he wanted to get the legacy of the Ice Emperor, he would have to fight with the other 8. And it was highly likely that one of the 8 would be a 9th stage life-sizer. Given his current strength, he could probably defeat an ordinary 9th stage life-sizer. But if he wanted to win, that was impossible. It seemed he would have to use his Tyrant martial soul again. If that didn't work, he might as well use the divine ability of the Bloodsucker Devil. Although his cultivation base would regress. With the memory metal of the Frigid General, his cultivation base would rise at least 10 times faster than before. He wasn't worried about that. As long as he could get the legacy of the Ice Emperor, the price would be worth it. With that thought in mind, he looked at the ice monster in front of him. Without any hesitation, he pulled out his bloodthirsty demon sword, and the map of the Western Divine Tombs appeared. This monster's body was incomparably strong. Neither Paragon Flame's heaven-scorching sword, nor Paragon Ice's heaven-freezing sword could defeat it. Fire type was countered. Ice type was immune. Only a Soul Paragon's Spirit Heaven sword could deal with it. Behind the powerful body was a soul that was so weak it was almost non-existent. For a Spiritkin martial artist, this trial was actually very simple. However, the attack had to be strong enough, otherwise it wouldn't be able to enter the opponent's soul realm. It wasn't as exaggerated as an ice-type or fire-type attack. A Soul Paragon's Spirit Heaven sword seemed very ordinary, but you couldn't ignore its terrifying power. The bloodthirsty demon sword stabbed out. The ice monster's body swayed. Then it fell to the ground. Its body was unharmed, but it had been defeated. That was the terrifying thing about a Soul Paragon's Spirit Heaven sword. Just as he was about to leave, the ice monster suddenly disappeared and turned into a key. It was a key formed from ice crystals. I didn't expect that the door I randomly chose would be one that no one else has been to before. Ling Xiao estimated that the 9 doors should have 9 keys to truly open the legacy of the Ice Emperor. Therefore, for the opening of the Imperial Mausoleum, it wasn't that only 9 people could enter, but there had to be at least 9 people. Otherwise, if the 9 keys couldn't be gathered, the Imperial Mausoleum couldn't be opened. Following the appearance of the key, the door behind the ice monster also opened. Ling Xiao walked in. The air was filled with the smell of blood. Looks like someone has already died. The 8 people who entered before him definitely wouldn't be safe, because everyone wanted to obtain the legacy of the Ice Emperor. Naturally, they would kill each other. You're tuning in to the Thunder Spear YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.